Hello, listeners. Welcome to a new show that we've cooked up for everyone. That we are both very excited about.
It's time!
Welcome to Console Wars. This is episode 1. I am Cameron. As you guys probably know, I'm one of the regular hosts here on the Rock Punch Cast. This is not Will.
I'm not Will, despite what that thing says.
And despite of the beard.
Yeah, mine's not quite as
But
open.
he has hair.
I have a little bit.
You have more than Will.
It's on full retreat. It's like, I mean, we got the Star Wars theme going on, so it's like episode 3 separatist here. Like, full retreat. Dooku is dead, we're out of here.
Mine's getting there.
I got the General Grievous of hair, always escaping.
Seth is joining me today for this, not just this episode, but this entire show. This is
Brand new show.
Collaboration between us. I guess it's episode 1. Let's give them a little bit of history on how this show came to be.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
So, a long time ago, if you're a patron, you know about this. But Seth, who is a Rocket Punch veteran, he's been on the team before. He's worked with Rocket Punch content, helped start Rocket Punch.
Mm-hmm. I designed the logo.
You did.
It was my original thing.
And he is also currently our designer for our team. So any graphical looks and whatnot, he has either designed himself or gave very much a lot of guidance on. Mm-hmm. So way back when you were in with us here, like full time, like Will and myself, as we always do, we have bonus episodes on patreon.com/rocketpunch. We should check out. And we had an episode one time. Do you remember what that episode was? I'm gonna go look it up.
I remember it was the showdown. So PlayStation versus Xbox. I designed the thumbnail to be very like luchador, mano y mano esque.
Did you?
Yeah,
I gotta go look at it.
I saw it in my designer portfolio or my designer files the other day. But yeah, basically it was a bonus episode where we decided, you know what, we're gonna do like a big long debate. I think it was like 2, like every episode with Seth, it was like 2.5 hours long, and we decided we're gonna talk about the state of things. Look at what Sony's doing with PlayStation 4 at the time, what Xbox was doing with Xbox One at the time, and this was around 2016, 2017. So we were really
at the time, yeah.
It was like really in
go.
the weeds of like that. Like every week you heard, you know, Microsoft's not reporting numbers anymore. Sony's, you know, like just all kinds of crazy strategy shifts. So it was a really fun episode for us to do. We both had a blast doing it, and then
at
that point, I think the seed was planted for Console Wars. And here we are today with brand new Rocket Punch. As you've seen, if you haven't watched the main feed, go check out the main feed.
Yes, it should be announced by the time people are listening to this. All the new stuff on Rocket Punch for 2020 should be available for you guys.
We've been working on this for months, really, like getting all the new stuff together.
About a month, 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks.
And then Cameron came to me and was like, "Hey, I got an idea for a show. It's called Console Wars or something like that, and we're going to talk about basically what we did before." Yeah, you pulled it up.
I found it.
And
I found
Epic Showdown, PlayStation 4 versus Xbox One. One night only, Rocket Punch bonus episode. July 2016.
August 2016.
Oh, is it August? It says 07. Oh, okay. We posted in August.
We probably posted in August.
Yeah, so yeah, if you're a patron currently, I think you can go back and look
yes,
at it.
if you're a patron supporting us on Patreon, you can actually go back through the entire archive of previous episodes.
You can access the archives of the Jedi Order.
Too chilly.
But yeah, so we decided, you know what? Let's make this a show. We've got new consoles this year.
Yep.
We've got, I think, tons of strategy shifts from both Sony and Microsoft.
Definitely. 100%.
And as soon as you pitched this, I was like, this is the perfect year.
It's a perfect time.
This is the perfect time to do this discussion. We're going to be diverging in many ways, competing in many ways. It's going to be a wild year. And so we said, let's do a monthly show.
I love that. I'm reading that Cameron and Seth put on their boxing gloves and have it out 1-on-1. 2 shall enter, 1 shall leave the victor. Find out who wins this epic Sony versus Microsoft debate on this month's exclusive Rocket Punch Cast bonus episodes.
And it's got 3 exclamation points at the end, so you know Seth wrote that.
It's very serious, guys. It's
very
serious.
Very serious.
So, yes, that is eloquently put. That is how Console Wars has come to be. So what this is, guys, is that each month, you should be listening to this on the Rocket Punch Cast feed. So each month, or I guess by the time this goes out, it won't be the Rocket Punch Cast anymore.
It'll be the Rocket Punch
show feed. Ooh.
Yeah.
Each month, a new episode of Console Wars will be available for you guys to listen to. We're going to get into the minutiae of how the show and flow is going to go in just a little bit after we get through housekeeping and stuff. But I do also want to mention before getting to that, if you are a patron, if you support us over on patreon.com/rocketpunch, over on our, I believe, if I'm remembering right, our gold tier, if you're a gold member on Patreon, you will actually be able to get each new episode up to 2 weeks early.
2 weeks early.
Than everybody else. You get early access to it. So, if you love the show, you love the idea of the show, you want to hear it sooner, whatnot, go help support us over on Patreon. We'd greatly appreciate it. And that way you could also help give us ideas and stuff to talk about, as well as ways to improve the show.
Yes.
So, is there anything else to say to get started, or can we just roll in?
Listen. There is a fight coming.
I'm so excited.
It's gonna be great. Buckle up, everyone. It is. We're doing this once a month.
Yes.
And so each month it's just gonna be.
Goku.
No, I'm too weak. Too weak. Anakin, help me. I want to mention something.
Good.
From the moment you pitched this to me, as soon as I left that I think it was lunch we had. Yep. In my mind, I said I've got to talk about this. If you've been with us for a while, you've probably seen me guest on the show. You maybe even remember when I was a regular on the show. If you're way back.
If you're old school.
And the way that things have kind of aligned, I'm a huge fan of Xbox. Cam's a huge fan of Sony's PlayStation. And so we've kind of always leaned into that in a really fun way. I think it is very important to discuss and reiterate that the console wars are fun in theory, but you should never use them as a platform to attack or hurt another person.
Yes.
We're going to get down and dirty, but we're not ever going to say anything slanderous or mean about anybody. The thing that I always... Here's what I wrote down as I'm going to say this on the episode. At the end of all of this, we know two things are going to happen. One, Mario will sit on his throne of bones. That
is one. That is one. Yes, you're right.
Video games end with Mario on his throne of bones. One of the oldest Rocket Punch jokes. The second one is we pull the mask off at the end of this, and everything turned out better for the consumers. We've got full cross-play. You play what you want, where you want. It doesn't matter if it's PC or console or Switch or whatever. That the end game here is that we all win as consumers.
Let's piggybacking off what Seth is saying. We are gamers first. I have a PlayStation 4 Pro right there. I've got an Xbox One X in the living room right now that I play on both consistently. The same for Seth as well. Yep. So we love these. It's just that we have our preferences, and I prefer. I've been a PlayStation kid since the original PlayStation. Xbox.
He likes the 4K. He likes he's the interlacing. He's all about it.
All the exclusives.
All the true power of X. Xbox Game Pass. I'm just saying.
It's really good, and so going in, like Seth said, we have fun and jest with console wars, but please, if you're out there, be kind to one another. Be kind. Because at the end of the day, we are all gamers. So it's a good way. That's good.
That was my thing. I was
disclaimer.
The disclaimer, be nice to people, and at the end of the day, whoever wins, we win, because the way that they compete is by making things easier and better for us.
I know that I'll reiterate a lot of that throughout my conversations on stuff in the episode.
Cool.
So let's get started with episode 1, guys. Let's jump in here. If you don't know already, or if this should be your first time here, welcome to Console Wars, your monthly podcast covering news and analysis on the never-ending struggle between Xbox and PlayStation. You can listen to this show every month, as we said, on our Rocket Punch show feed. You check it out there. It'll pop up as a bonus episode. You can also watch the video. We'll have video available on youtube.com/rocketpunchgo. So if you want to check out the video version of this, you don't listen to podcasts, you more consume YouTube, guess what? You can check the episode out over there. If you want to know more about Rocket Punch and what we do, make sure you head over to our brand spanking new site at rocketpunchgo.com. You see all the new cool goodness and layouts and stuff
that somebody at this table might have designed.
Might have been working on the last month.
I'm open for commissions. HelloSethTurner.com. Please hire
plug
me.
Plug it. Definitely check us out there if you want to see more of our content, like the Rocket Punch show, like our board game show, which at this particular time we don't have a name for right now because that's a logistical nightmare.
To unnamed board game show. Yep.
As well as our videos and all the projects and stuff we're working at, they're going to be right there for you. As I said at the top of the show, if you want to get early access to Console Wars, head over to patreon.com/rocketpunch. Supporting us at our gold tier or higher is going to get you that early access, so that way you can be a part of the conversation before anybody else and jump in and also help provide feedback in ways to make not only this show but all of our content at Rocket Punch a whole lot better. Speaking of Patreon, as we do in each piece of content, we'd like to give a shout out to all of our Patreon producers. These are our people supporting us at our platinum tier over on Patreon, so thank you very much to Chuck O'Brien, Joci Moore, Sam Sugg, Jeremy Moses, Steven Sanders, and General Palace, because he is supporting us on there as well. I want to throw him in there. I haven't updated these yet. That's it for the housekeeping. That's it. So let's jump in. Let's break down how the show is going to go. If this is episode 1, let's give people an idea of what the show is going to look like.
Yes.
There.
All right. So each month, as news comes out about Sony and Microsoft doing their subsequent strategy announcements, whether it's big events or rumors or random tweets from engineers that we follow on Twitter, we're going to compile that information here for you and run down the list of what we found from the past month. So I'm going to run through all the Xbox findings and discoveries. You're going to run through all of the Sony. I love this live selfie thing. God, what a dark time we live in. Anyways, you're going to run through all the Sony things.
Yes.
And then at the end of each run through, we're going to just kind of talk about our impressions, how we feel like they did that month. Was the messaging clear? How are we feeling excited? Are we feeling bummed? That type of thing. Then, after we both go through and discuss that, we're both going to decide through some form or fashion who we think... Hold on. Got to pull out my large foam quote fingers here. One, that particular month. Meaning, who do we think had a better strategy in communicating either game exclusives or platform improvements or whatever whatever that rubric is for that month, right? If Microsoft comes out and says Series X is $199 and the PlayStation's $499, like that's big, right? Like that would be big, and same would be if the tables were turned.
Yep.
But some months it might be a little bit closer than that. So that's the general gist. Is that first segment, which I believe we're calling the state of play.
Yes.
To understand kind of the state of where things are. We're going to run through Microsoft and Sony, what they've done, our impressions of that month, and then who we think wins. Then the second part of the show is we're calling Power Your Dreams, to kind of play off of the Series X reveal, is going to be where we discuss things we would like to see. It could be predictions, it could be shoot for the moon, wishes, whatever we want. And
pipe dreams that'll never happen.
That type of thing. That we would want to see from both Microsoft and Sony, one from each of us. So that way we can kind of participate on the other side as well.
Yeah.
Or have a secret Trojan horse of additional insults to sneak in, where it's like, man, I wish Sony would just go ahead and sell out to Microsoft because it's coming. But
depends on how broke they get, because if you don't know, Sony's gaming division is their most profitable division. I think that and one other. Is it their TVs or
TVs and cameras?
TVs and cameras.
Games,
okay,
TVs, and cameras.
Their cameras, you won't see them a lot, but like for camera professionals, Sony's are way up there.
We're on a Sony. I see Sony right now.
That is.
Listen.
Well, of course, we had to air the first episode on the superior brand name product.
Yes, through your Windows PC.
I mean, we couldn't get an Xbox Connect to put on there.
You know what? Don't talk to me right now. Don't talk to me as you literally stream this on a Windows PC. I don't want to hear it. Equal representation here. We've got PC from Microsoft, camera from that piece.
Balance
In all things. Okay. So, all right. So I'll go ahead and get us started off.
Yes, we're gonna jump into State of Play.
State of Play.
Lead off with Xbox. Seth, you're the Xbox guru. Break it down for us. What happened in the month
Buckle up.
So this is going out in February, so we're going to look at the past month. So what's going on in the month of January for Xbox?
All right, so I have compiled some information. Some of it's from late December, because there was a pretty big event that happened in December that was unexpectedly very Xbox-focused announcement, at least in that
Yes,
moment.
it was.
So definitely, first and foremost, the Xbox Scarlet, Project Scarlet, was revealed to be called the Xbox Series X. If you haven't seen this yet, what are you doing? Like, this is... It was everywhere.
No, look. 45 million people watched the Game Awards live when it aired.
It's bigger than sports.
I know some of you listening saw
Yes,
that. Okay,
yes.
thank you very much. So you know what we're talking about.
And first off, I got to applaud Jeff Keighley for, like, locking that in and it not getting spoiled. Because I was on a nice little getaway. I know I talked about this on the pod. Like, I had a little romantic getaway with my girlfriend, and we went to this like log cabin in the undisclosed location because we want to go back there. But in there, we watched the Game Awards from a giant heart-shaped tub. It was the cheesiest, gaudiest trash ever.
My God, that's awesome.
When that happened, I was... Oh, she was like in the tub, like, I don't know what to do right now. Fortunately, it was a large tub. But let's just say I was losing my shit.
I heard there was, in preparation for the announcement, it wasn't leaked because nobody knew what it was. Whatever Phil was reading was completely fake.
It wasn't like some Game Pass filler?
Yeah, it was some Game Pass filler that he announced, so no one knew, probably other than Jeff Keighley, knew what was going down.
Yeah. It was wild.
Fitch, so
It was wild.
I digress.
And also, speaking of which is kind of a good segue into my next one, there were the December episode of Major Nelson Radio, which is a monthly Xbox podcast from Major Nelson. I would say his title at Microsoft is literally Major Nelson.
Really?
He's not like director of communication. He's just literally Major Nelson. But funny. He has a monthly podcast, and if you're an Xbox fan, you should definitely listen to this. You get all kinds of cool little tidbits about what's coming. But Phil talks about in detail what happened, leading up to that. Tells. They were playing the video during rehearsal, and he was like panicking on stage because he thought they were going to reveal it, but it's just the first like 20 seconds they looped. And if you go back and rewatch it, it's like the first 20 seconds is just like, it could be anything, right? It's just some kind of hype reel. So it doesn't actually show the console till later. But one of the little tidbits, and I'm adding this in as just like a little bonus thing here, I got a little inside baseball about lingo and language used at Microsoft. For what the emblem, the Microsoft logo, and actually I got the controller right here, so like on your controller, the little X button here, that is called the Nexus, which makes sense because it's like the
you hit that. Well, not only that, but you hit that and it takes you to the
and so I've never heard that term, as like what it's called. It's like the Xbox symbol, the Xbox button. But that symbol itself is called the Nexus. I thought that was kind of cool.
That's pretty cool.
And that's the type of stuff you glean from that podcast in particular. So those two things. Series X was revealed. Crazy design. We're going to talk about it as we get past. But moving on. The next thing that happened was during, I believe it was CES, AMD, who is the chip manufacturer for a lot of the video cards that go into consoles, was hosting a CES panel, and they showed this 3D render of the Xbox Series X, which, if you haven't seen, it's more almost like a big pillar than a traditional console, and it was spinning around, and someone took a screenshot or a snapshot of the back of this render that had 2 HDMI ports. So people were like, "Oh, it's got 2 HDMI ports." They're still doing the HDMI pass-through, which was, part of the legendary saga of Xbox One. This later got debunked, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. This was a render that was bought off of a 3D render, stock imagery thing.
Come on, AMD, you're better than that.
Yeah, and I mean, like, they did what they were trying to do it the right way. They bought a render from an artist, so that way, they're protected legally from anything, from revealing anything. But at the end of the day, that render, Microsoft came out and said, "Hey, that is not representative of what the back of the X looks like. Don't worry, we have something coming up that is very representative of what the Xbox Series X
okay.
was. So that's coming up in a little bit. But
okay, yes, okay,
This was quickly debunked. So beyond that, the next thing, I think this was probably one of the biggest things from January proper, was it basically in an interview, it was revealed that for the first year or so, the Xbox Series X will not have any first-party exclusive games for that console. So, Halo Infinite has been pretty well communicated. It's going to be a cross-generational game. That it will be on Series X and Xbox One.
I was going to say, explain that for some people who may not know what cross-generation is.
So, the lingo I'm going to use here, there is the Xbox One S, the Xbox One X, and the Xbox Series S.
Are you confused yet?
Okay. So, I like to stay pretty on brand with Microsoft, so I'm going to say the Xbox One family and the next generation Series X. That's my general
cool. I follow
lingo.
Okay.
So, the idea is that their games, and I think this is pretty aligned with what Xbox has been communicating for the last year or two, that their games are going to come out with one SKU. So, Halo Infinite will launch. It is going to run on One S, One X, and Series X. All of those consoles, and they'll just have their subsequent improvements. So they basically announced that all the first-party games for the first year or so are going to follow that same principle, which a lot of people began to raise the question of like, are next-gen games going to be held back by previous-gen hardware? I think that's a valid question that we will definitely talk about.
Yeah, we're going to dive into that because I do. Especially with that announcement, there are a lot of things that I've heard discussed and I have thoughts on that. Like I wanted like for people who don't know, for all the fun we're going to have in this show, like when I have Xbox thoughts and Xbox questions, I go to a source, like big source.
We call those X thoughts. X thoughts.
Oh, okay.
X thoughts.
Okay, that's good to know.
Or thought station. I don't know. I feel like at this point the word thought is tainted by the internet, so maybe we need to step away from that lingo. But
good point. I digress.
Yes. Anyway, so we are going to talk about that one in particular for sure. Next development. This is one of those big oofs. So shortly, maybe 2 weeks after the AMD debacle, some photos appeared online of a seemingly legitimate Xbox Series X prototype unit. Now, I can confirm that this exists. Phil Spencer tweeted out a couple of weeks ago that he has a prototype unit in his house that he is playing on right now.
It was like right around Christmas time.
Yeah, prototypes are out there, probably Microsoft internal. However, this one showed up on Reddit, including the serial number, so whoever owns it, sayonara. But it was very revealing because it did show what I think is the actual back of that console, which does only have one HDMI port and two USB-A ports. But no, I didn't see any USB-C ports on there. Let
me see, I'm actually... Oh, this wasn't long ago. This is like a week or so ago.
Listen, that's the thing about this show is we're getting it out really quickly at the end of the month and we're recording it right at the end of the month and we're getting it out as quickly as we can so that way it's not like we record the episode and then the PlayStation 5 price is announced and then we launch an episode. Like, oof, we don't want that.
We're not going to miss that.
So, but yeah, this shows what I think a pretty accurate representation of what the prototype looks like, and it does only have one HDMI port.
We're going to talk about this because I have a question about that.
We're going to talk about that. So then the last little thing, I don't know what we'll get to that. This is more... I know so far it's been a lot of platform talk. Everyone's like, I want the games, give me the games! Because that's the strategy that Sony has employed to undermine the success of the Xbox platform. But I digress.
But it's working. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I digress.
No, go ahead.
Project Mara is a new project from Ninja Theory.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot wait to talk about this in our recap here. This was just a teaser they showed. They showed a little bit of ray tracing tech, which, fun fact, that was the lobby for Ninja Theory's, the staircase is in the lobby of Ninja Theory Studio.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah. If you get a chance, go to YouTube, Ninja Theory's YouTube channel. Like, number one, they have a step-by-step documentary like I've never seen anything like this. It's basically the entire development of Hellblade recorded and put on video, and you basically see their entire... like studio and everything in there. So,
but this particular announcement is separate from Hellblade 2, which was also announced in conjunction with the Series X reveal. This is a new project from them that is apparently a very horror-focused project, and I'm not going to dive too deep into this because we can talk about it when we talk about the games and whatnot, but I think that if there's anyone who is going to make a horror game of the caliber that we expected from PT, it is going to be Ninja Theory, because they have poured time and effort into not researching horror like, oh, the Silent Hill monster is really spooky and gross, because it's like its hands are sewed together, but like they have studied what psychosis looks like.
They have leading scientists that like have degrees in like psychology and study psychosis on a daily basis on staff.
Yeah, and they're using binaural audio in really awesome ways. If you haven't played Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, then you may not know what I'm talking about, but very good game that I think simulates what, as best we can simulate, what suffering from a mental illness like psychosis or insanity would look like for someone. Taking that principle and applying it to a horror game could be one of the greatest horror games we've ever made. If nothing else, could be one of the best Lovecraft games we've ever had, because that's the whole point, right?
True.
I don't think this is a Lovecraft game, but this Project Mara looks really interesting, and I think is first of many first-party games we're going to see this year. But now this last one you put on here, Steam on Xbox rumor.
Have you heard about this?
I haven't heard about this, so please
I want to
enlighten me on this.
I get to add something in there.
Please do.
This is recent. This is a few days ago as of this recording. A big rumor started leaking out. I think it's purely rumor. I don't think anything's been confirmed, but there have been some whispers suggesting if Steam games will be playable on the Xbox Series X platform. I'm pulling up specifically, since I know they're good, WindowsCentral.com.
Okay.
Multiple websites have reported a rumor stating that the Xbox Series X will support Steam. To be blunt, there's absolutely no evidence for this. Why would this is from their article? Why would Xbox have two different storefronts on that system? Which, good points. That's stuff we can discuss about. But that was a rumor that's been circulating. By the time this episode goes up, it may still be whispered and talked about. But I figured that was another big one that we could talk about in the Xbox.
We'll need to talk about that. That is, man, it's just going to be so hard for me not to go into my 90-minute rant about what I want the Xbox
That's what the
to
show
be.
is for.
That's what it's for. Dude, listen, man, I got it's in my head. It's in my head, and I want to put it out here, and maybe I can do it over the next 12 episodes of the show. Just paint for you the picture of what I think Xbox should be, but I digress. That sounds super exciting. I'm very intrigued by that. The only thing that I have in my mind that I can think of right off the top of my head is I am running the Xbox PC beta. I actually had a little Twitter thread, so if you go to, you can follow me on Twitter at Darth Turner. I had a Twitter thread a couple weeks ago about just interesting tidbits I've noticed about the PC beta that I think might give us a hint as to what's to come. And one of the things that they do have now is the ability to link Discord, Steam, Twitch, all kinds of like third-party services straight to your profile, and it's for the purposes of like, you know, every
Probably
social
like,
profile where it's like it shows the little icons. It's like click here to go to my Twitter.
Link and see which other of your friends are on Xbox and
that
join
type
them.
Of
and
thing. But it could very easily lead right into a hey, you bought Hellblade on Steam, now it's on your Xbox. You know, like that. I don't know. The API is in place. All I'm saying. So that's kind of it for Microsoft this month. Now over to you to talk a little bit about Sony, and then we'll dive in and
we'll go back and forth.
We'll chew. Yes, we'll chew on.
Okay. Some stuff I've got for Sony, the land of PlayStation. Big number one list I've got. This is more recent. Horizon Zero Dawn. There have been actually. I mean, it's from Kotaku, so it's probably true.
As good old Jason Schreier.
Sources have been telling Kotaku that apparently Horizon Zero Dawn is looking to come to PC. Now, this is the original game, but they're looking to bring this over to PC, which I remember hearing this for the first time. It makes a lot of sense. One of the most obvious...
It's just way out there. Like,
yes.
Way out there.
Here's one of the reasons why. Because Death Stranding is coming to PC this summer. And Death Stranding, for people who do not know, that game is built on the Decima engine, which is the engine that was used to build Horizon Zero Dawn. My personal opinion, you can come at me if you want. I'm at C Kearns, is my Twitter handle at the bottom of the screen. I still think Horizon Zero Dawn is if not the best looking game in this current generation, one of the best looking games. Like, that's a very short list. If you've not played Horizon Zero Dawn, go play that game. I fire it back up every once in a while. I just move my PS4 Pro from here when I'm not doing streaming over to the 4K TV in the living room. I'll enjoy my 4K, but it looks freaking fantastic. When you pop in and have the HDR and everything, it is one of the most gorgeous games ever.
Much like Emperor Palpatine, or at the time Senator Palpatine, or Grand Chancellor Palpatine, admires Yoda's ability. He knows he can defeat him. I admire Horizon Zero Dawn as being a fantastic looking Sony exclusive game. It will be destroyed in the coming generation.
My memory's fuzzy. Who won at the end of Revenge of the Sith? Who won in that fight between? I couldn't remember. I don't know who was still in the Senator.
Yoda got thrown down the Senate pit.
Okay, I just wanted to make that clear.
And then
it was
crawls
Yoda
out.
who fell down in the Senate pit.
Yoda fell down the pit and crawls out, and Bail Organa, which I'll say at this point, Bail Organa in this scenario is the PlayStation VR 2. It pulls up underneath and picks up the Yoda. The Yoda, you know, I'm a big fan here. And flies off so that Yoda can go into exile.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear. Memory is a little fuzzy.
Because remember, he knocks him down and then he does the and this one he does the like hand thing, and I'm like, God, what a ridiculous villain.
It was better than the first two.
At least they don't bring him back in the last episode. It's not a Star Wars podcast. This is an Xbox versus PlayStation podcast.
I'll save. Let me do another small one here. Another one here.
All of Sony's ones are small.
We'll see. Spec leaks. So this happened a while back, but since this is the first episode, we haven't had a chance to talk about it. Spec leaks came out for both new consoles. This is pretty big because Eurogamer and Digital Foundry covered this. I think they got it from Windows Central. Mm-hmm. They still declared that this was rumored, but based on who was actually revealing the details of the leaks and some of the call signs and whatnot, their sources said there's a good chance this could be true. And kind of detailing not only the PlayStation 5 specs, but also the Xbox One Series, or Xbox Series X, make sure I remember it right.
Yep.
Xbox Series X specs for both systems. It was really, really interesting. What it boiled down to, and Will, our other co-host here, Rock Punch.
I'm not Will.
He's not Will, this is Seth.
I'm sorry.
We'll fix it next episode, I promise. One of the highlighted things, I know we talked about it before, is like Xbox Series X does look to have a good chunk more power and especially more cores on the system. PS5 doesn't look to have as many cores, but it does have a higher clock speed. And so maybe discussing through that, and when we dive deep...
Cameron, if your clock is faster, then it's not a good clock.
That's not how processors work.
No, it's supposed to... A clock is supposed to tell time. And so if your clock is fast, then it's not telling time correctly. It's like when I get in my car and I think I'm late, but I'm like, oh shit, I'm not actually late. It's just set 10 minutes before.
Oh, I do that in my car. Do you not do that in your car?
No, I don't do that in my car.
Oh, I do that in my car.
Well, it's because you have a PlayStation 5 with the faster clock speed. It's ruining everything. I'm joking. I'm not that.
I love it because I get into a panic, then I get to where I am, and I'm like, oh, I'm actually early.
Okay. One of the things that you're going to see come up about this is that I don't generally relish the idea of tech speak like you and Will love going into the giggle bits and
Will
and
more than
flops.
me, but I love having that discussion.
Sometimes sometimes I will glaze over legitimately. But for the purposes of this, I'm pretty well versed in like how consoles work and how the tech works. But I'll be super transparent. I come from a very like Apple heavy background. I love this idea of like I'm going to open this thing and it's going to work, and it's got this ecosystem that feels really fun and engaging to play with. So sometimes during the tech stuff, I may sound like, what the hell does that mean for the end user? But that's just because like my mind works from like okay, when I remember with the Series X or the Xbox One X, they were like, it's got 8 teraflops, and I'm like, awesome. What is that like? What does
that mean for the end user?
Yeah, what does the teraflops do?
What am I getting? What am I getting with the teraflops? What does more teraflops mean for me? And I think I'll probably reference some of these when we talk about Sony and PlayStation. In giving these comparisons, like, I will break it down. Believe me, I leave the tech speak to Will. He's very good at it.
Again, I'm not Will. Saying,
that just be
you're pointing at me. You're saying I leave the tech talk to Will. I'm like, I'm not Will.
Oh, I'm just pointing nebulously in front of the camera to Will.
I just got a 1080, and that's my big upgrade. I know that's made by NVIDIA.
This is one of the two big ones. Sony. It happened last year. It's happening again. It got revealed probably like a week or two ago that Sony has confirmed that they will not be attending E3 2020 at all. I actually think if I could pull out, let me go to Game Industry. Let me read specifically the comments that were okay. And I quote, this is from the GameIndustry.biz. Their quote: after thorough evaluation, SIE has decided not to participate in E3 2020. Quote, we have great respect for the ESA as an organization, but we do not feel the vision of E3 2020 is the right venue for what we are focused on this year. Quote, we will build upon our global event strategy in 2020 by participating in hundreds of consumer events across the globe. Our focus is on making sure fans feel part of the PlayStation family and have access to play their favorite content. We have a fantastic lineup of titles coming to PlayStation 4, and with the upcoming launch of PlayStation 5, we are truly looking forward to a year of celebration with our fans. End quote. And I have a lot of thoughts on this.
Yes.
We're going to dive, when we get to the Sony analysis breakdown, I have a lot of thoughts on this. Some good,
bit.
Some not so good, but I have a lot of mixed feelings on this. Okay. So we're going to dive into that, but that was another big thing that happened this past month. And then the last one, which thank you, Seth, for finding this, because I could not find it. Apparently there was a huge, massive PS5 leak on 4chan.
Which, to be clear, there are dozens of these a day.
Yes, there are.
But this one has very unique elements of truth that I think weaves enough of credibility to make it worth it. And
it's a full list of somebody had leaked that they know that the PlayStation 5 event's going to happen in February, that they've got information on the UI, the system, have a general idea of what it looks like, what games that'll be revealed. I don't think they talk about price in here.
I've heard prices flying around. I hesitate to mention them here because I think price will be its own month. Like when we get to the point where prices come out, there's a big discussion around price because it is very important. But I haven't heard any rumors credible enough or attached to this that.
But reading through this leak, PlayStation Now will play a vital role. Backwards compatibility will be a major feature, and it'll be backwards compatible with all versions, PS1 through 4 of the system. Remote play will be a big feature.
Look over my glasses rims at that bullet point. The PS3 games.
Oh yeah, we will discuss.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Remote play will be a big feature. A lot of the features that PlayStation has, they're apparently going to be built on there.
Yeah.
It as of right now, that has not been confirmed. That is a rumored leak, but as you said, a lot of connections that people have made to that do make it seem legit, and we're going to dive into that a little bit there. But
do you want to talk about the rumored games that they have to talk about?
Is there a list on here?
Here we go. Yeah, I do. It depends on if you want to talk about it.
According to some of the bullet points here, Gran Turismo 7, MLB The Show 21, Demon Souls Remastered, Godfall, and Legends, a new IP from SIE Santa Monica Studio, are some of the launch titles for the console. Other games are teased, such as the new Horizon game, new Spider-Man from Insomniac, new Crash Bandicoot game, new sci-fi IP from Naughty Dog, new IPs from SIE Japan and London Studio, Final Fantasy 16, and a new Resident Evil title. Those are some
bold claims.
Those are some really bold claims. I'm just going to
General Kenobi, you're a bold one.
Hello there. And then actually,
I mean, if that's real, that's the hello there of announcements.
And it
that is a wild launch.
One of the bullet points: PS5 will launch worldwide in October 2020, priced at $499 USD. and then all the requisite listings for Europe and Japan, depending on where you're at.
There we go.
So, yeah, we're going to dive, as we go in through, when we get Sony's part, we're going to dive through a lot in here. But those are the kind of big announcements that have been coming from the PlayStation camp, and at least that I've seen and followed throughout the month of January, or this past month. There. So.
And now you know what we're about to argue about for the next hour to 2 hours. We'll see.
We'll see how long it takes.
We'll see how long it takes. What are your initial impressions? What do you think about this first month as the troops begin to move?
The pieces are laid.
The pieces are beginning to lay. I would say that Microsoft really like showing the box was a big move for the chess piece. I would say that talking about the Xbox One being supported essentially for the next year and a half is another big part.
Talking about this overall, my thoughts over the last month, I think that from this, I think Xbox and Microsoft, there's more, especially from reading this, there's more confirmed stuff on the Xbox side, which tells me that Xbox is starting to get on the train sooner. I mean, the fact that they announced and showed the box.
Come on, ride the train. Woo, woo, ride it.
Get on the hype train. But like
coming through, baby.
The fact that they showed the box in late December, or not even, no, it was early December, because the Game Awards was in like the first week or two of December.
Yeah.
The fact they showed the box that early was really shocking, because nobody expected that at all. Out
of left field.
Came out of nowhere. And Jeff, I mean, kudos to Jeff Keighley for keeping that a secret.
I mean, what happened is Jeff Keighley was backstage and the hologram popped up and Phil Spencer was on there and it said, "Execute Order Series X." And then it was done. Nobody had any clue beforehand. It had been implanted long ago.
And I think that a lot more stuff is confirmed on the Xbox side. PlayStation, like a lot of the stuff I read, actually, if you really think about it, aside from the Sony not going to E3 2020, every bullet point has some rumor or basis. It's not confirmed yet. It's all been like from sources, heavily rumored, but good sources, something along those lines. And I think that is showing that Xbox is getting ahead of the game. Sony is being very quiet. For what reason? We don't know yet. We just simply don't know. We won't know until these consoles are out and brandished in full, laid out things, and then we can reflect on the months prior and say, oh, that's maybe why they did that, or maybe why, some of these were true, some of these weren't. We don't know. But I really think this is telling me and showing me, like, I think Xbox is showing more, but I also think Xbox has more to prove going into this next generation.
Wholeheartedly agree.
And I'm not gonna go. You want to hear us talk about? Well, maybe we will, but you want to hear the details and stuff about 2013 and the Kinect and $4.99 and here's how you trade games bullshit. Go over there. We got it on the Rocket Punch cast. Go look at the archive episodes.
We launched this show so that when Sony does that this time, we can have a record of it. And we can watch the.
And if that happens, I'm going to get so much, so much. But there's nothing I can do. I'm like, you know what? I got to be a man. I got to take it. I got to take it.
Yeah, we'll see.
But I think that, and I think honestly, this is good. We've had conversations off mic before.
Yes.
I think this is, even with these rumors and stuff, from what we've gathered, this is ideally exactly what we generally expect from PlayStation and Microsoft.
Yes.
Like, PlayStation Sony gives us the hype, like, quote unquote, we get all these crazy stuff, but then we're not sure. There's still questions about the stuff, like, where is it going to come this year? When's it going to come? What is it going to be? Like, what it's going to be 2 years, 3 years, whatnot. Like, give us more information, or maybe not everything has been revealed until after that.
There is official stuff. You forgot to mention the amazing logo. The next generation of logos is here.
Let me be very blunt about, because that did happen.
Flip
the
PS5
logo. I saw the logo. I think it was a Sony thing at CES.
Well, in their defense, they had to do a horizontal and vertical flip on the piece. So that was a lot. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of work. It was like 2 clicks.
It literally was like, in their CES presentation, they talked about a bunch of other crap. Then they just happened to speak on PlayStation, and they showed the logo and said, "Yeah, we got a lot of cool stuff coming next year. be excited, or end of this year be hyped.
I gotta say that was a complete because I remember they did a teaser image the day before you better show up to CES. We're gonna show you the next generation.
They did?
Well, yeah, no, they go look at it. They're like, we're going to show you the future. I think it was the future of entertainment is what they said.
Oh, yeah, and they did. Yeah, they did.
Which they showed the logo, and then they talked about TVs.
But let's also be clear. This was not...
CES.
This was CES. This is not a gaming thing. This was... I'm sure... I understood, like, this is going to be other technology stuff, but I saw this. I said, cool. This was my reaction. Okay, that's what I expected. Close the book,
the logo
done.
is about it. Yeah.
Then I get up the next morning... And there was so much fervent fire going on about articles everywhere. New PS5 logo has been announced. And I am sitting here on my phone going, the hell? What the hell is wrong with people?
It's the January news thirst.
Is news that slow
it's pretty
that
slow.
we're talking about how Sony did 4...
Yeah.
5. Ooh, my God.
That's crazy.
It's complete crap, and anybody who was on that hype train, if you wrote an article for that, I'm sorry that you had to write an article for that.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm
I'm sure you get clicks, and that's the thing, is like,
yes.
We're talking about it, it's fun and funny to talk about, but
yes.
we didn't include it on our facts because it's a fucking logo.
It's a non-story.
And of course it looks like the PS4 logo, like...
Duh.
Anyways.
But I think that Sony's always been about that, and like Sony is honestly, from my experience throughout all of Sony's history with the PlayStation, they've always done a great job of like building up hype and getting people amped up for something. Microsoft has done the same. I think, like as I said before, I think Microsoft has a lot more to prove. Going in, they were behind the 8 ball from the start of this past generation. They've been basically behind the 8 ball going through the last 7 years, but I think. And it's one of the things I really like about getting rid of Don Matrick and bringing Phil Spencer in is that he has come in and in moves past. So when we go back to the PS3 era, when $599 you'll need two jobs to when that happened with the PS3, like Sony, basically their focus was we got to catch up with the PS3. We got to catch up with the PS3, and then they released the PS4, and then they have really... If I really think about it, it was more of Xbox's mistakes than Sony's success going into this past generation that really helped the PS4 elevate itself to what it is now.
Yeah.
And I think that that was cool, and that story is great and all, but I believe one of the things I do like about Phil, and I do like about Xbox right now, is that as soon as Phil came in, it was immediate, like, we got to make changes right now.
No Kinect, but people don't remember this, but like the Kinect debacle was, I'm not going to say resolved, but was addressed before the Xbox One shipped, right? Like, Phil came in after the Don Matrick dropped out of that company, I think it was 6 weeks before the launch of the Xbox One. Phil came in very quickly, very agilely, said, we're dropping the requirements for Kinect, which cannot undo the hardware restrictions that were there, right? There was a lot of hardware power invested in that,
to power the Kinect,
and it took them years of updates to kind of roll that back. But
really, once they got the Series S, the Xbox One S out,
but like it launched at $399. It didn't launch at $499. There was a version at $499 that came with the Kinect, but like they did allow you to buy a version that did. But all of that got forgotten because of here's how you share used games and like parry, riposte, critical hit, super effective. That is a $299 legendary moment.
What am I trying to think of? Hit the weak point on the crab for massive damage.
Giant enemy crab, hit the weak point for massive damage. That's irrelevant. And so now we're moving into this era now where I have a very blunt theory. I don't think anyone's going to mess up this time. I don't think and I say that someone always messes up, but I really don't think anyone's going to mess up because the stakes are so much higher. And also, gaming is so much bigger than it was back then. Like, the number of consoles that are going to be sold in the next generation will dwarf the PS4. Like,
hey, you remember that conversations that people were having, like, oh, console gaming's dead?
Let me ask you this. What is console gaming? It's gaming on a box that plays video games.
But That's a box.
That's a box that
It plays
video
games.
But it doesn't have Horizon. Oh, wait. It's soon going to have Horizon. So, anyways, I digress. We're getting too ahead of ourselves. I didn't let you finish your overall.
No, but like, I think really from both of these, that's my overall. Like, I think Xbox more so. They're putting their pieces in place, but they're doing it in a visible sense. That's letting, like, I think more than anything, it's on the onus of Microsoft right now to rattle the sword and rally their troops to tell them, hey, look at what's going on over here.
Be aggressive. Be aggressive.
And
Go Team Xbox.
I think Sony, whether you want, I think, I will say, I think, I say the word sparingly, but like Sony has the luxury, quote unquote, of not having to release anything. Like, look, let's, we're friends, we're having fun, but it's console wars. Being a little blunt, Sony has over 100 million consoles sold, like 166, not 160, not that much.
160.
No way. I thought it was 106.
Nope, 160. Look it up.
Look it up. That needs to be confirmed.
Look it up. Look it up.
If they have 160,
I'm really doubling down on this number. I'm going to look like a fool if it's not.
If they've sold 160, that means they've surpassed the PS2. There's no way.
Yeah.
This was 2019. October, January. No, it's 2019. It was at CES.
We do. This is important to fact check. Because he'll get a chance to super critical hit me.
Second best home video console, January 7th, 2020. But Sony's 2020.
Could have sworn it was 160.
106 million units.
106. Actually,
KO.
Life point. That's it. Okay, my bad. 106. Still a lot of consoles.
But still, it's the article specifically said it was the second best home console sold. Yep. And that needs to be clarified because when you add in mobile and like handheld devices, it's like 5th or 6th because bam, Nintendo. But
remember Mario Throne of Bones. It all ends.
But Sony has over 106 million PS4 sold, and that is continuing. I'm sure that the number will grow. It will not be as big because every time we have a year of new consoles, people are going to be like, "Whoa, wait a second. Let me wait until the new stuff comes out," which makes sense. But with that, you think about the past years, they've had banger, super impressive exclusives: Horizon Zero Dawn, God of War, Spider-Man. We've got Ghost of Tsushima coming up. We got The Last of Us Part 2. What other ones can
Persona 5.
Persona 5.
Bloodborne.
Thank you.
From games, and I'm just pulling from other.
I'm trying to think. Like their exclusive lineup has been over the last couple of Days Gone, which I think is not. I think it's not quite where those other ones are, but it is sold extremely well, especially in Europe. When you look at these exclusives that their studios are pumping out, like you can see and understand, like, man, okay, this is why people are jumping on the PS4, the PlayStation 4 bandwagon. That's why it has 106 million sold. And so I think that Sony has the luxury of not having to say anything, because at this juncture, people are just waiting. You got the doors aren't open yet, but people are banging on the glass, like trying to look in and see. Like,
they don't have to be reactive, and not having to be reactive is the most luxurious place to be, because you are just people. I mean, at this point, people are salivating, right? Like, I think a report just came out that Sony fans are the most brand loyal, and say what you will about those types of surveys, but like all those hundreds of millions of people are, give it to me, Bilbo Baggins. Like, they want to know.
And Microsoft's over there like, hey, look at our store and look at the cool stuff we have, and that's not
power your dreams.
I'm sorry, the Salvation ding ding ding.
Yeah, ding 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 ding. Yeah.
But like things and stuff we talked about specific, like PlayStation, Horizon Zero Dawn coming to PC, that makes a whole lot of sense for the reasons I talked about earlier. The fact that Decima Engine, Death Stranding, and Horizon both were made on that. Yep. If Death Stranding's come to PC, then it should not be too far of a stretch as putting that on PC. This also could be a strong move if it is true that Horizon Zero Dawn is getting announced this year. Because if this happens this year, you say Horizon Zero Dawn gets put on PC, you have a huge swath a user base that hasn't played this game for, if they don't have a PlayStation, they start playing it, they say, oh man, this game is really good, and then you hear, oh boom, Horizon Zero 2 is also coming on the next PlayStation. Could be, ooh man, I need to get... And
it becomes a marketing opportunity at that point to have goodwill of, hey, we're releasing on PC, we're loosening the belt a little bit, but then also you're pushing people to, oh my god, I gotta know what happened, what's next for Aloy, and then you go in, the story continues on
and
PlayStation 5.
But I think, like, I believe that one very much, and also Jason Schreier has sources and confirmed it. If Jason Schreier says it on Kotaku, I will, like, 99% believe it.
I'll be for real, I believe a lot of what is in that leak. I really do.
You do believe in the February leak?
I think that the Final Fantasy 16 and Resident Evil 8 are long shots. But
I agree.
That could be the Exodia of that announcement, where it is just blowing people's minds that, like, oh my god. Like, of course we know that Resident Evil and Final Fantasy 16 will be coming to everything.
I remember when the Resident Evil... I think we were here watching E3, and the Resident Evil 2 trailer came out, and everybody on the couch was like, what is that? I'm like... It's Resident Evil 2.
It's Resident Evil 2. Yeah.
That's what it is. One of my... I love that game.
And honestly, I think 8, if you haven't played 7 is phenomenal. Great
Go
game.
play 7.
But, like, 8 created... Like, there's so many weird questions because, like, I'm not going to spoil the end of 7, but the end of 7 puts characters you've known from the Resident Evil franchise in areas that you are not... You're like, whoa, that's who? And they're doing what?
What's going on?
And so I'm really interested to see where they go with 8. Are they going to go with that more traditional RE2 or RE3 remake, like over the shoulder, which is more that combat-y? Or are they going to go back to that first-person murder house of horrors?
God, that was...
Like, that was an old hillbilly redneck house, but, like, I imagine that in, like, a military... Like
if they make it add VR functionality, they'll go first person.
But this is a conversation, I think, for the Rocket Punch show.
But either way, it's going to be. But like looking at the February leak here for Sony, like some things I question. MLB The Show 2021. I question that a lot, actually.
Really?
Reason is because MLB The Show is traditionally a spring game. It is a spring release that comes out usually at the height of baseball season.
That's true.
And so it would be very unusual for that studio to release. Like 2020 is coming out soon if it's not already out. I think it's got a couple of weeks, sometime in February, March when that comes out. So you're going to release 2020 and then you're going to release 21 less than a year for a new.
Do you think that new requirement that kind of seems to be was placed on them? This was from a couple months back, but it seems that like the MLB was like, hey, you have the license, but you need to release these on other consoles because we want to make more money. Do you think that requirement's changing when they release those?
I would think so, because still, the big thing is, like, baseball really hits its fever pitch when spring comes. You want to put that game out when people are thinking about baseball, not when it's in the fall and you're thinking about football, college football playoffs, and NFL, whatever.
My brain's trying to create the plan for it, but then it just leads down this dark... You want to talk about the dark side? Sports games. Particularly marketing of sports games. So, like, I don't... That's an interest... I think it's evidence, which you presented as evidence.
Like... I could see it. The only reason I could see this was true is if this was a launch window game, i.e., it doesn't come out in the fall, but it's something that's very much the infamous Second Son of the PS5, which the PS4 got released in the fall, and infamous Second Son came out in the spring.
I've got to stop. We've talked way too much about baseball and not enough about Demon's Souls Remaster, because if that is truly what Blue Point is working on... That is, I bought my PS4 when Bloodborne came out. Bloodborne, I saw it and was like, put it here. Where does the money go? Where does the money go into the CD drive? Because at that point I had a computer with a CD drive. But I digress. That was what pushed me for that. And yeah, if there's Blue Point, that I would feel the. I believe Kylo Ren refers to it the temptation of the light. But, you know, I'll walk right up to it. I'll walk right up to the Demon's Souls hero and ignite my lightsaber through them and say, I know what I need to do.
I just don't have the strength.
I just don't know if I'm strong enough, and then shoom, and let it go. But no, Demon's Souls would be a huge launch title if it's exclusive.
if it's done by Blue Point, more likely it will be exclusive because for people who don't know, Blue Point Games is really big. They've been doing a lot of great remasters on games.
Like Shadow Colossus.
Yes, and a bunch of other ones as well. So if that is truly what they're working on, which and the question I have about that is, we just don't know what they're working on. That's rumored. We don't know,
and they keep teasing it on Twitter too.
And they do, and they're doing a very good job with it. But some of this other interesting stuff has some possibilities. New Horizon game, I think I've heard enough about that will probably get teased. I think it's 3 years.
It needs to be a launch title. It really does.
It would be great if it was. I think it would line up. I don't know if it will.
I agree with you. Like I'm feeling you. It needs to. I just don't think it will.
Now, granted, they've built the foundation with Horizon, so they have a lot of assets. So it won't take as long as the first one, but
if it takes place in the same
I
time.
could see this being a launch window game.
Oh, for sure, yeah, without question, yeah.
Spider-Man from its
yep.
it has been the same length of time as Horizon, but I don't think there's been enough time removed for that.
I think Spider-Man will be.
I think it's 2021 easy.
I don't know about that because if it takes place in New York again, it is created like unless they are wanting to do something crazy with it. I don't think you have to. Like Spider-Man was a fantastic game, but it was pretty straightforward. Like they got web slinging down. They spent most of the time developing web slinging, the combat of that game, and then there's a lot of tech behind how that city looks and works that could easily be used to spin up a new. I don't know. I don't think we're going to see as big of a gap for a new Spider-Man game as we would for like God of War or Horizon 2. Okay. But that's just
new Crash Bandicoot game.
Whatever.
Interesting, possible. Yeah,
that's not
a Crash fan.
I don't think that's exclusive though.
I don't think it. Unless Sony is footing the bill somehow, I don't think it could be because I think Activision owns the license to Crash. Yeah. New sci-fi IP from Naughty Dog. That would be weird and interesting. They have enough people that they could. They have multiple teams. They could do it, but that would be.
I'm sorry. I gotta come. I'm sorry. I gotta unleash a payload real quick.
Go ahead.
One of the things. On the show, I'm going to take this as an opportunity to vent some of my frustrations as well, as I'm sure you will as well. One of the things that has frustrated me about this generation, particularly, and Sony's strategy this generation, is I believe that Sony has gotten away with a lot of things that I don't think other companies would be able to get away with. Let me explain. While Sony has great bangers, God of War, Horizon Zero Dawn, we went through them. You know the good ones. But for each one that is a banger, I would say there's... I hate to use the word stinker, but this is console wars. So stinker. You have your Order 1886. You have your... I would say, I'm sorry you're wearing the shirt, but Last Guardian. A game that spent forever in limbo and came out to... it's alright. You have... I remember people talk about Year of Dreams, right? You remember Year of Dreams? Just the was it,
boy, do I!
Was it 2016 or 2017?
It was earlier than that.
But like, bring up the list of games that were announced.
We still don't have.
Still don't have Final Fantasy VII, and we don't know that game is going to be more than the first 2 hours of that game. You know, jury's still out on that. We don't have. Last Guardian came out, was kind of meh. Shadow of the Colossus came out, was a very great, faithful remake, but I don't think Shadow of the Colossus was good.
Shadow of the Colossus was good. It was just the fact that it was a remake. It wasn't anything new. Like if you played the game before, it's another chance to play it again.
It looks good, but like that, and I was like, really, is that year? Like because people are like, oh my god, new Final Fantasy. I think that was where they announced Spider-Man, which Spider-Man did come out. Fantastic Spider-Man game. And so going into this and looking at stuff like new sci-fi IP from Naughty Dog, is that a game that's going to come out in 2023? Like, I don't feel like
I would have to go through and see I would have to dig in through Naughty Dog and see when games were released by which teams to see if a team had been working on it long enough. Because I feel like right now you know what? I will definitely say that Uncharted 4 came out in 2016.
And then Last Legacy was 2018, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So Last Legacy was built as an expansion, which they expanded upon. Yeah. So that wouldn't have needed a large team. They could have, while the other team's working on The Last of Us Part 2, they could have had a team working on a different IP.
I just hope they don't get on stage and start showing logos for things that people are like, oh man, instant lock. And then these games end up inevitably either one of two things, getting delayed indefinitely, or are multi-platform. Which
I'll give Sony credit. They have, when they do game reveals, it usually is not, correct me if I'm wrong, a just like nebulous voice and then a logo pops on screen.
I mean, at this point, that's what Final Fantasy 15 was. That's what God of War had like a little.
Well, they had something more, like, even if it was a character or something. It's not like an example I would be thinking of would be
like the God of War reveal.
Yeah, or something like Metroid Prime 4, where it was like space, logo, and then Metroid Prime 4, and then says
Elder Scrolls 6.
Like, yeah, there you go.
That game's not coming till 2025 probably, but
they got to get Starfield out first.
Sure, I'm sure it's. But that's one thing that's frustrated me, and I really hope that they don't go into this and just start blasting cinematic trailers and logos on the screen, and everyone get all this artificial hype for things they're not going to see. And honestly, like, I do honestly think that the first year and a half of the PlayStation 4's launch was four's launch was a miserable drought of first-party exclusives. I have never had any interest in Infamous.
I like Infamous.
So it was a
solid game.
It is fine. I just got like, I was like, why would I play that when I can go?
You know what? I like Unsung Hero. Come at me if you want. Killzone Shadowfall is a really good game, and I don't think a lot of people gave it a chance. That is complete sidebar, in my opinion. I just want to say,
through its failure, we got Horizon, so I'm okay with that.
Yes. Well, Guerrilla has two teams. They're built enough now, so they can have a Horizon team and a Guerrilla Killzone.
No.
Team.
They got the Horizon PC team and the Horizon 2 team. So
there you go. That's it.
But I know we've been talking for a while. I want to jump in real quick and talk about
I've given Phil. Let's talk about your stuff and what your breakdown and what you think.
I have the way that my mind is going to classify these recaps is I'm going to pick themes that I think were prevalent. Thank you. To this month, the two things that I think I began to pick up on are the stark difference and contrast between how Microsoft is planning to message and communicate with its fans and how Sony plans to do it. And the second element that I think I'm beginning to see is just how Microsoft and Sony are solving the problems that the other ones are already good at. So let me start with the second one first. So, putting it straightforward, I think Sony has a fantastic, best-in-class first-party lineup of games. Microsoft does not. Microsoft has acquired a shit ton of studios that it will, and I know a lot of people are very skeptical because they haven't showed anything yet, but I do. Double Fine, Ninja Theory, I'm just drawing a blank. Compulsion Games made fantastic.
The Initiative.
The Initiative is like
in-house created studio, but it is a new studio, so that's why I'm throwing.
But they've brought in talent that has already proven their ability to make great and diverse. In Exile is such a diverse idea, like this.
Obsidian.
Obsidian, masters of the RPGs that I think a lot of people are hungry for, right? And so I am really interested to see Microsoft build out their games portfolio. But Microsoft currently has, I think, one of the strongest platform portfolios. Game Pass mixed with Xbox Play Anywhere, mixed with, PC releases on Steam and on the Xbox app. Like, it's just their ecosystem is insane right now. I mean, I'm playing Plague's Tale right now on Game Pass. I honestly would never have touched that game. But it's on Game Pass.
Really?
World Wars. It's a hard sale, man. I get it. It was $40, and I was like, man, it's a lot of rats. It looks like a. I
will ask you off mic what you think of the game so far.
But. Chapter 5, I'm thinking it's great. It's great, but I wouldn't have given it a shot if it wasn't on Game Pass, right?
I hear that so many times.
World War Z
about that.
The perfect example. I have enjoyed playing World War Z with my friends co-op. Would never have touched. There's no way I could have convinced my friends to all buy that game. But so there's a lot that's been said, and I believe to be said about having a service where everybody has the same games. I think that if you want me to cite someone specifically, I don't think that Rocket League would be anything near what it is if it was not for it being launched for free on PlayStation
Plus.
And I think that you're going to see more of imagine if Stardew Valley just crossed 10 million copies. I think that if it had been launched free on PlayStation Plus or on Game or whatever, it'd be past 20 million. Right? Like if people are going to be looking at this and being like, man, I can take the check from Microsoft, launch my game for free, which they're still getting paid for it, but maybe not as much as if you sold it yourself. But then you look at the numbers, and now that base is there. Like Rocket League has built an empire off of that initial burst, and so Microsoft has that in place. Sony, they have PlayStation Now. I think most of what Sony's issues are messaging. They don't market things. They send very mixed signals about VR and like we're really invested in VR. Here's a VR Direct, and then silence. And so what I want to see from Sony is a better job at building that ecosystem, that opportunity for developers to make awesome games and get them out there that Microsoft has. Some will argue that Microsoft's done it out of desperation. I'm not inclined to agree. However, desperate times sometimes create amazing...
I to a certain point, I would say I would be one of those people saying that, but I will also preface it by saying, like, that is how we get the awesome things that we get.
Yep.
I've talked about this on the Rocket Punch cast with Will. If it weren't for the debacle of the Xbox One at the beginning of 2013 and the PS4 basically taking the reins for this generation, you would not have Xbox Game Pass, or at least... not in the form that it is now.
And I can promise you that if you did not have the Xbox debacle, which then led to Xbox's extremely strong push for backwards compatibility, leading up to them saying that your next Xbox will be backwards compatible and driving that home day and day, we would be sitting here talking about, man, I can't wait to buy Last of Us Part 2 Enhanced Edition on, like, they would do the exact same thing we did last generation where there was no backwards compatibility from the start. If you remember 360
PS4,
backwards.
yes. Okay.
PS4, from PS3 to PS4.
I'm making sure in my mind I'm not confusing the PS3.
No backwards compatibility, and then the first 2 years were just relaunches of stuff, right? And similar to how the Switch is dealing right now with the Wii U, right? Like a lot of relaunches of games from the past generation.
Well, that's also because nobody bought them. Zing!
Zing!
I'm sorry.
But I think that going back to my initial 2 points, Sony has some platform work, and I think they're doing it. I think that getting PlayStation Now should be on the fucking PS5 box. It should come with a 30-day free trial, and I'm not saying you should do the Microsoft thing of like, we're launching Horizon 2 straight into that. Because there's problems with that.
I agree with you as well. Like, if they put PlayStation Now in the box at launch, guess what? It may not be exactly the same, but they have some type of competition with Xbox Game Pass. Because I will put money on the table that every Xbox Series X that is sold will have, if not a 7-day, then a 14-day free subscription to Xbox Game Pass. Full stop.
I mean, if you buy an Xbox Now, it has a 30-day Game Pass Ultimate.
Okay, it's something along those lines. And I think that, if anything, that doing stuff like that allows the players to go, oh crap, we don't have to necessarily, if we can't afford money to buy the games or the big new games, guess what? We can at least start trying and playing with the system for a set amount of time.
I just figured it out. And honestly, Microsoft's figured it out. Sony just needs to kind of steal it and make it a little less compelling. But I can see Sony not wanting to do the thing Microsoft does, which is release day and date, right? Sony produces games that can quite honestly be consumed in a week. Like, you can sit down, play God of War in a week, and then you're done with Sony exclusives until
they're very a lot of their big exclusives are single player games.
Single player, narrative driven, that type of thing. So I can understand not wanting to put that in a $15 a month subscription that then you can just cancel at the end of the month. Right?
Oh well, yeah. Why can't I do that when I can just?
However, what if you're a member of PlayStation, and we'll call it PlayStation Now Plus or whatever they want to call it, if you're a member of this, you get the 20% off that Microsoft offers to its Game Pass for any game on Game Pass. What if you get 20, 30, whatever percent off, you do the math, off of new games? So, but do it in such a way that, like, if you were just to scum it and get like a $15 1 month subscription and then buy it, you're still paying $60 for the game, right? Like maybe it's $15 off.
The easiest thing to do would be like 10 or 15. If you 20% off, that usually drops the game to like nebulous $47.99 price.
Yeah,
which a lot of people do.
Or make it where you have to be a member for 2 months or something before that discount kicks in. Something to kind of get like you could do that. Like Microsoft would put soap in a pillow and beat you to death with it, but it would at least allow you to be a little bit more progressive than buy the disc for $60, please, and then also push people to digital purchases because obviously you would block that behind a digital. Anyways, that's my thought on that part. Jumping back to my first initial impression. This is probably the biggest one, and I'm saving it for my last reflection here. I am a bit concerned about the way that Sony is choosing to communicate with fans, and this is going to lead into our E3 because I know that's a big.
That's one thing I haven't talked. That's the E3
about.
is the big one for me, and then there's the game thing I want to talk about with you.
Yeah. So
go ahead.
Sony seems to be taking, and I don't mean this as they're just copying, but they seem to be taking a Nintendo approach. I think Nintendo's approach to communicating with fans is awesome for the way that Nintendo makes games. Nintendo does not have a hype cycle per se that they generate. The hype cycle happens like Metroid Prime 4 logo, hype cycle starts.
Well, their hype cycle are the directs.
Yeah,
every time a direct pops up, people pay attention.
Well, what I'm saying is like their directs are hype cycles because their franchises are hype cycles. Sony has taken that with a state of play, not to be confused with our current state of play that we're doing, but state of plays are these very direct, I'll say direct, like person talking to me about what's coming. My concern with this is twofold. Well, first, let me talk first. So that's what Sony's doing, right? They're doing this very calculated, very strategic approach to communication that's highly scripted, right? Microsoft, on the other hand, is doing what I think is fan service communication because they are at E3. They're not at E3, but they're next door, right? They're showing up at E3. They're announcing their new box at the Game Awards when they know that gamers are there and engaged.
45 million people.
45 million people. They are hosting XO18 or XO18-19. They'll probably host XO20, which is that big fan event that they do, which is kind of weirdly like PSX used to be, but like PSX is gone.
Sorta, yeah.
So they're focused, and I think Sony's doing this too. They're focused more on getting in front of fans and talking to fans, and I think that's better for it. Like if you watch XO19, when they talk about even games that aren't that great, they were talking about Gears 5. They were in Mexico City. Don't know if you know this. Gears is huge in Mexico.
Xbox as a presence is huge in Mexico.
And so what I see is this. Next up from Sony, we have an exciting adventures of Aloy continue in Horizon Zero Dawn 2 roll trailer. Versus, probably one of the Xbox community people. He's like, and now I've got, the lead game director for Halo Infinite right here. We're going to be talking to them live. And then pan out over a crowd fucking losing their minds about it, right? It's almost like a live concert more so than an announcement. But I see this stark contrast in how they're choosing. Like, Xbox is going to where gamers are, whereas Sony is like, you will come to us and we'll communicate with you. And my big concern in Sony is that a lot of what makes Nintendo Directs work, I think, has been what it was built upon. If you remember the old Directs, it was like the puppets, and there was the personalities of you had Miyamoto and Reggie and all of these people were there and creating these fun little personality things. I'll be honest, man. Sony executives don't have much personality. Like Jim Ryan's
they've all kind of left.
They've all kind of left.
Sean Layden had personality. You had Shuhei Yoshida,
who's doing the indie thing,
and like Sean Layden's gone. Shuhei Yoshida is doing your indie thing.
But like the thing, like oh my god, what was his first name? Something Ryan. Jim Ryan. Jim Ryan was the guy that said, "No, we can't put Minecraft on. We can't let Xbox on PS4.
Crossplay.
We can't do crossplay because it'll affect the kids." Like that is bullshit. Like bullshit. Like, and I just like, and so what they decided to do is they went with this disembodied female voice, which I'm sure was the outcome of countless focus groups.
I'm sure somebody smacked Jim Ryan across the face when he said that.
Yeah, but like, I'm just concerned that like you can't just take what Nintendo's doing and do it and it work.
And piggybacking off that, that goes back to one of my earlier points. I truly think the onus is on Microsoft to make a statement, and I think that's why you see the stuff like XO19 and getting those crowd get together, make some noise, get hyped, get your biggest fans out there, because you think about it. Let's go back. Let's turn the clock. Let's go back to the PS3 and Xbox 360. Let's go back to the PS3 and Xbox 360 phase. Like Sony was out there pushing, greatness awaits for the players. We got these great games. Boom, boom. We had PSX and all this other crazy stuff because they had to. They were behind the 8 ball. They knew it.
The hustle. They had to hustle.
PS3 was $5.99. It was on some freakishly complex cell processor that developers were like, what the fuck is this?
Backwards dragons.
And I think, as we've seen, because of the missteps at the beginning, that script has been flipped. I'm not going to disagree with you on the point that I think to a certain extent Sony is basically telling people, you'll come to us.
Yeah.
Sony's still going to be out there. They're not going to be at E3, which I'll piggyback and talk about that in just a second. They're not going to be at E3, but they did say they're going to be at events around the globe. And I think that, that could be PAX, that could be other conventions and stuff that you're still going to see them at. But I think that to an extent, I agree with what you're saying that, we're going to, you guys will come to us. You'll come watch our state of play. You'll come do this. Whether it's, and I think thank God, they at least paying enough of Nintendo's directs to say, set the expectation first for state of play. Thank God, because otherwise everybody's going to come to a state of play and expect some world rocking announcement. But I think that they have the luxury of doing that because they're on the top of the pile right now. I put $5 on the table. If or whenever those positions change, Sony's, what we got to do? What we got to do? What we got to do?
I just think about what if you didn't rest on your laurels, right? What if you just keep pushing forward and get out there and just honestly, they're in the perfect position to counter everything Microsoft is doing. Come out and say, they've already dropped the price of PlayStation Now to match Xbox Game Pass. They don't talk about it, though. They've already done the work they need to do.
And again, we're only talking about this month, but conjecture, maybe they're doing something in the future. Maybe they're putting something in for the launch. I know one thing we've talked about before is a great move would be PlayStation Plus now includes PlayStation Now. If you have a PlayStation Plus membership, you got PlayStation
Now Plus. That's my horrible name for it. But yeah. So that was my theme. Those were my two themes for this year. Now I want to jump in and talk about E3.
Let's talk about you bring that point. I got another point for you as well. So go.
Okay. So we're not going to talk about does E3 need to exist. That is irrelevant.
Come join us on that conversation on the Rocket Punch Show.
Yeah, that is a Rocket Punch Show topic for sure. However, E3 is an important event, not as a physical location, but as a hype cycle, media cycle time, right? That is when people are covering. Now, Microsoft is also not at E3. They are not participating in the electronic...
They are not at E3 in the traditional sense, but they are in the hemisphere of E3.
They're in the zone. They own the theater next to it, or they own the naming rights to it.
E3 is not at E3 in the traditional sense, but they're in the hemisphere.
Yeah, and you use your E3 badge to get into this Microsoft event, so there's still some communication with the entertainment. What is it? It's electronic entertainment.
Entertainment software.
ESA. The ESA. So they are still collaborating there, but Sony just straight up being like, "Nah, we'll pass." Such a hubris.
I'll piggyback on that because
I don't like.
Reading some tweets from Jason Schreier over at Kotaku. Again, you need to follow him. Mm-hmm. There is some insight to this that I kind of get, and I want to talk about kind of my confliction with E3 2020 and them not being there, is that there's been a lot of rumor and comments and stuff from last year and this year, and the reason why Sony is not there is a kind of along the lines of the same reason that EA is not there, in the fact that a lot of companies are now wanting to try and they want to see more of a fan presence at E3.
Yeah.
And want to get away from the traditional press or industry trade event type of stuff, or at least do something in the dichotomy where I think in what they've been doing the past couple of years, where it's like press people can come in the first day or two, and then your patrons and other people come in after time.
There's a lot of documentation out there about the ESAs. I think there was a leaked slide deck of what they imagine E3 to become, and if that is the case, E3 needs to shiver and die. However, I think there still should be a big gathering of video game people in Los Angeles every June.
I think E3 is still relevant as far as in my opinion, as the hype cycle and stuff. But I also get I will definitely say that's what I mean. Jason Schreier said it, so it's basically gospel at this point. But if that's true with Sony and EA and a lot of these companies saying, "Hey, we want more of a fan press event," I get that because it's 2020. We're at a point now where we don't have to have. Yeah. You remember when we grew up, we had to wait each month for the new Electronic Gaming Monthly magazine that covered E3 because we couldn't watch it live on stream. But now
we watched it on godforsaken Spike TV, and they stream it with all their bullshit. It was just like, ugh.
But now we're at bare metal. The developers and the publishers and the corporations can communicate directly with the fans. So I get that with if that is the case of why Sony is wanting to pull out. In other reasons, like it's a lot of money to put on the show, like millions upon millions of dollars to put something on to E3.
Well, you don't have to participate in the core show, but and show up.
On my second part of that, I get that. I get why you wanna I get why you want to do that, because as a company, especially in 2020, you can now say corporations, you want to see what's happening, but at the end of the day, what's going to matter is how many people buy our product and how high does our stock price go. That's when you're happy. Yeah. So why am I doing a dance for you and spending millions of dollars when I could take that money and put it towards the fans and make them happy so they buy stuff so you end up being happy? I get that.
I really hope they show up, like in some regard.
Here's my other point. I get that point. I like in that regard. If that's the case, I can understand why Sony's leaving. On the flip side of that, why do you not? The problem you lose, and especially maybe not so much last year, because I'll be very honest, they didn't have much really to show. But in 2020, when you've got arguably one of the biggest entertainment launches coming off of this PS4 ever, why are you not at the big press event where every gamer, person-centric industry patron, whatever, is going to have their eyeballs glued to on a computer or TV screen or some presence? I think last year, I will be honest, I didn't really care. Sony wasn't there. They didn't have much to announce. I was super hyped for Xbox and what they had going on. This year, they've got something to talk about, and they're not and even in that case, a state of play, sure, say they do a state of play and start showing some games on there. I still don't think it has that much of that impact as like if you do something like Microsoft, where even if Microsoft didn't have a conference, they rolled their own pre-canned footage. They still have a presence there, so everything you saw, if you're an E3 attendee, guess what? You can swing over to the Microsoft Theater, you can put your hands on the console, you can put your hand, maybe try out some early builds of some of the games that are coming out on the system, and have an idea early enough to say, boom, this is the console I want. Now, will Sony do that? I'm sure they will, but I think Sony misses out on a lot of people by not doing it on E3.
I wholeheartedly agree. I think having a stage show and then some kind of follow-up. Microsoft has always done what's called Inside Xbox, which is that live show. I think that team does a great job of producing that show. There are times where that show can feel really scripted. Very obvious teleprompter reading and sometimes a little dry humor that you get from that. But those stage shows, like, we talk about the moments a lot. The chills from backwards compatibility announcement on Xbox. The chills from the reveal of the Xbox Series X. The chills from just those types of events where either Phil or someone who actually is leadership comes out and has the charisma and leads the charge, versus here's a disembodied voice that we hired as a community expert to read a script into a microphone for you. It feels a little soulless. Is it more efficient? Yes. Super cheap? Yes. But
for the hype. The hype. The people want the
unlimited hype.
And I just think that on that flip side, that's why I've been feeling conflicted. Like, I really would have liked to see Sony show up.
Well, Sony will fall in its hubris, and from its collapsed body, Xbox will stand mighty atop with full cross-play support, true 4K gaming, and the power of the Xbox Cloud.
I mean, at this point, if both consoles don't have 4K gaming,
they will.
They will.
Anyways, so back to me. Something to me. What do you got for me?
Okay.
You said
the one big point that I know from each one that we want to talk, and I want to talk about this with you, is the Xbox One or Xbox first party games will not be Series X exclusives for the first year or two.
Okay.
And I want to speak on this because I have a few concerns. I have some concerns with this. Here are my concern. The big concern I have on this is that the question I have is, what is Xbox trying to do? And I think I have a general idea, but
I can answer that question right here and now. Xbox is trying to kill the idea of console generations as we know it. And it is causing people to kick and scream and lose their mind because they think that they're losing something, but what they are losing is having to deal with 3 years of great experiences that are out of this world mind-blowing, and then 4 years of, quite honestly, games that are crammed into console boxes that are way too slow to support what could be. And you see this in the PlayStation 4 Pro, Xbox Series X situation.
Xbox One X.
Sorry, Xbox One X situation. People were eager to go out and throw down another $400 or $500 to get the best experience. The developers were ecstatic to not have to work
more power.
Yeah, more power to work with to make their games look better. Heck, even old games started looking better on One X. Like the Red Dead got the 4K treatment, KOTOR got the 4K treatment. Like that was awesome. And like I was playing KOTOR and I was like, oh my god, it's in 16:9. Like this is that in and of itself. Like,
and that's and what my concern is it's a little, not that complicated, but like. At least for me, I will continue to say your exclusives help sell your console. You give people a reason. Why am I buying your box?
Yeah.
Here's why. I'm the Sony boy, so here's why. Horizon Zero Dawn, God of War, Spider-Man, boom, 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 boom. Got bullets in the chamber, boom, come at me. Like, and I might
sounds like a street rap song. I got bullets in the chamber, boom, boom, come at me.
Maybe it will be. Maybe we'll do a rap on here one day. Good. But I remember hearing about this, like, okay, so they're not going to have exclusive games. One part of me was like, okay, that kind of makes sense. You want to, this is great. It eases people into the generation.
Yeah.
They're not going to have to rent out and buy the box if they can't afford it right now. Guess what? They can still feel comfortable knowing that if they have an Xbox One X or an Xbox One S, which I have a theory about that, of what's going to happen with those, that they can still play those games.
Yeah.
My theory on that is that I believe that, I was thinking about this while we were talking earlier when we were eating lunch. I think that the Xbox One S is going to
drop support.
It's going to go away. It's going to drop support. I think Xbox One X, that is going to be the system. I could see one of two things. I could see them make a Lockhart system, or
which Lockhart is the rumored
low-end Xbox model.
Yeah.
I could see them do that, or I could also see another epiphany I had is like, what if they just took the Xbox One X and dropped it to $349?
Boom.
And then say, guess what? If you haven't upgraded, we're going to drop Series S support. But if you can't afford the two new ones, whatever, if they do Lockhart or not, you can get the Xbox One X is now $349 or $299. Something. Yeah. Something like that.
If Lockhart exists and is planning to be released in conjunction, I don't think that's a good idea. I do think shipping with one SKU is smart, and then do the second SKU in Q2 of 2021. But
I agree. We don't have time to do that now.
Yeah, we don't have time to discuss that. We've got plenty of episodes. But I also think that what Lockhart is going to look like is very similar to an Xbox One X. I think that where you want to make sure you hit parity is on the CPU speed, because developers are going to be using that for simulation. And simulation is, I think, going to be a big component of the next generation of games. Like visual fidelity, I don't care about 8K. I'm done.
We're at a point now where the it's not so much how the graphics looks, but we're not looking at like surface.
Yeah.
We're looking at depth.
Here's a real world example. I want Watch Dogs Legion to not be about how great the city looks. I want it to be about how detailed and diverse the AI of all these characters that I can straight up just hack into my organization are. If it's going to be like Watch Dogs 1, where it's like, we have all this really rich detail, but at the end of the day, it's just text.
Number one, all you had to do was say, if it's going to be like Watch Dogs 1, and you could have ended your sentence.
Well, and that's like Watch Dogs, the idea, the hype behind Watch Dogs 1, I think is what we're going to actually have the tech to do with increased processing. So I think that, going back to this, flip over your Xbox One X, pop out the GPU, put in something a little cheaper that can run 1080p at 60 frames per second.
Well,
pop out the and take that money you just saved, pop in the CPU for Xbox One or Xbox Series X so that they're on parity for processing power and make the difference just in
I'll be honest, I don't even think you have to do that. I say if you drop the Xbox One X to I'm living in the pipe dream, $299, the system already runs your current games at 4K and 30 frames. You can say, this is your 4K 30 frames
off the box.
This is your 4K 30 frames box. And you want your 4K 60 frames box? Guess what? We got
with
the series,
SSD.
With SSD and all these other bells and whistles, guess what? We got the Series X right here for you. I think that, like, if anything, that would be a great ploy. Like, people think Lockhart is this crazy new box, but no, guess what? We're just...
And people... I don't know where this came from. I'm going to touch on this for a minute. People think that they're going to use xCloud to offset. xCloud is a key part of xCloud is not a key part of their strategy for the console.
No.
xCloud is for them to. I really wish people that cover games and not just, I think people that cover games do this, but people that talk about games would understand the world of product development, because there are a lot more key performance indicators or like things that you really want to track other than number of consoles sold. And Microsoft understands that. They communicate that they want people playing on their things. Like, in a perfect world, Sony sells more consoles, but people play on Xbox, right? Microsoft want people logging into Xbox to play Game Pass, to do these other things to engage with it, right? And so xCloud is all about, okay, you can only play Sea of Thieves when you are sitting in front of a computer or in front of a TV with an Xbox attached to it. What if that wasn't the case? What if instead of playing Candy Crush on your phone when you're bored, you could boot up and play Sea of Thieves on your phone while you're bored? That's what xCloud is all about. xCloud is also about, hey, I can't afford a $600, $500, $400, whatever $100 box it ends up being. But I want to play those games. And I don't mind if they have a little bit of lag, because honestly, maybe I just want to play Civ 7. Or
another big thing, like, really, your lag only counts in multiplayer games. Like, you got single-player games, a lot of times you won't care.
What if I want to Stardew? It doesn't matter. Like, and I would say that games are not going to run any worse on xCloud than they probably run on Switch currently. So throw that out. I don't think that they're going to use xCloud to, like,
I don't think so,
as a crutch for
something. One of the concerns I have with this, I talk about the Pro, like, that would be a great, either one of those plans, if Lockhart's real, or if they just take the Xbox One X and, like, hey, guess what, $299.
Yeah.
Boom, get good. With this being the case, Mike, I genuinely, even as a Sony guy, I have concerns of how people are going to feel going to buy the new Xbox. And like, I talked earlier, like, hey, it's, this is, they're going to let you ease into this, but the big thing is, like, when you have new hardware, at the end of the day, they're a business. They want to sell stuff. Yes, you're going to get your hardcore people jumping in, going like, boom, I want to buy this box. It's got the most powerful stuff, SSD, all this other stuff. But what is driving them, unless you're using the power of your, and I'm sure they will, what they'll do is I check out Microsoft there once in a while too. They're going to say Halo Infinite runs best on Xbox Series X. And that's what they're going to say. And I'm hoping that works very well. But if... And I don't want to get too in the weeds on this, because I think that a lot of people are really focused on PlayStation just because of PlayStation's history in the console. In Xbox, they're focused on it, but I don't think it's to the same dichotomy that it should be. I think that people are going to see, like, or latch onto the fact, like, dude, but it plays best on Xbox Series X. Oh, but I can get it on my Xbox One X right now and download it and not have to worry about that. Now, and I'm concerned or curious how that's going to hurt their gameplay in the first year or two when they don't have an exclusive system. It doesn't have to be a system sold, but like something exclusive that draws people in that says only on Xbox Series X.
I think you'll be surprised. I think you'll be surprised because people bought the Xbox One X. The Xbox One X sold incredibly well. The PlayStation 4 Pro sold incredibly well. People want the best experience. Don't believe me? Look at how PC fans react when Nvidia launches new graphics cards. It's drooling at the mouth. Look, you writing checks for $800 just to get the graphics card. People love that. Like, they love the feeling of having the most power. Like, there's no greater feeling than booting up that new game after you put in a new graphics card and cranking everything to max. Like, that is...
I can enable ray tracing now. Yay!
That feeling will drive people who are highly engaged to, I say this hesitantly, buy a new console every 2 years, right? Like, I don't think that Microsoft's being like, yes, we can sell a new console but like, that's just the reality.
Some corporate money grubbing bigwig on Microsoft and Sony side is saying
now they are. Yeah, the accountants are like, good, but like it or not, consoles are very similar to phones in a lot of ways. And yes, there's someone out there right now that's got an iPhone SE and they're completely happy with the iPhone SE. Awesome, enjoy it. Like, yes, don't be surprised when. And
then there are people out there each year when a new iPhone or a new Samsung device comes out. They're first in line at the store getting it.
And it is stupid not to make things for those people because they want that stuff, right? I have talked for years. We're not going into this. Don't let me go into this.
Okay, dude.
I want a console that runs as fast and as efficiently as my gaming PC that has an SSD in it and it's super, like Monster Hunter World, super fast. I've been playing that recently. Like, super fast load times compared to PS4, which literally I want to die when that game loads in PS4 Pro. But I want that, but just plop it in a box on my desk, plug in my keyboard and mouse, and go. There's none of this bullshit that has been... And honestly, PC gaming, I think, is at a horrible state when it comes to fragmentation. Not just... And I'm not talking about Epic Game Store, Origin. Like, that's in and of itself its own thing. But literally, my girlfriend just spent 2 weeks dealing with an issue in Monster Hunter World where her screen will literally just black for 5 to 10 seconds at a time in the middle of a hunt. Which, if you play Monster Hunter, know that's very
bad.
Very bad. Boots back up and just keeps playing. And it was because the motherboard was processing the RGB lighting on the back of her fucking monitor and crashing the game. That is stupid with a capital S. And that is because PC gaming's bullshit arena of bullshit shenanigans. So I want something. I'm not joking.
It's hilarious.
This is real. She bought a new.
Hilarious.
She bought a new DisplayPort cable. She almost reformatted her hard drive. 2 weeks of troubleshooting to do this. I've reformatted Windows PC or my Windows twice in the past 2 years. I don't want to do that. Now, if you want to do that, awesome. Enjoy Steam. Gears 5 now available on Steam. Like, do it. But I want to buy a box, and I don't care if this box is $600-700, but I want to boot it up and use it like a PC, but not allow. I want the closed environment that PlayStation and Xbox offers. One storefront, consistent and clear return policies. If the Steam integration sounds great, awesome. Like,
if that is true,
import my game purchases. I'd love to, but at the end of the day, I want it to be. People use this term derogatorily, but I think it is great. I want a walled garden where I can boot up this box to play the best video games at the best resolutions without it crashing because RGB lighting is on my stupid third party, and I got to install the Corsair Extreme Game Pro or Logitech Extreme Gaming headset, or now I got to put in Streamlabs because Streamlabs integrates. No, there is a market of people who want that plug and play experience. They want power. They're not just going out buying the cheapest thing they can get. I'm willing to put the money on the table, but I think a lot of times people think of console players as casuals, but If I promise you this. If the Xbox Series X comes out, I'm going to hypothetically say it's $600. It runs games natively 4K, 60 frames per second, with an SSD, meaning the load times are super fast, da-da-da-da-da. Then NVIDIA comes out and announces the 3000 series thing. All right, starting price, $1,200, because fucking Bitcoin miners destroyed everything. But people are going to be sitting there going, am I going to spend this much money on a graphics card when I can just buy the Series X, plug a key? And I do think that the key here is being able to plug in a keyboard and mouse and use the thing.
Yeah.
And
I was going to say, like,
this is the part I've been saying for years. I think that native keyboard and mouse support will be baked in through and through to the Xbox platform within the next 2 years.
You think it's going to be 2? You think it's not going to be shorter than that?
Within the next 2 years, it will be baked in. Like, it's already there. Like, you can play Fortnite with it, but the developer has to support it. I think that true, like, the destruction of the wall between PC and console gaming is imminent on the Xbox platform. I don't think Sony wants anything to do with that. Sony wants the DualShock to be the primary input. Yep. They may do the support, like I think they do support it on Call of Duty. Like you can plug in a keyboard on PS4. You can.
Didn't know that.
Yes, you can plug in a keyboard and mouse. But at the end of the day, I think Sony wants to let the developers like really champion that. They don't want any part of making that a feature thing. But that, I think, is what I want the Series X to be. I want the Series X to be a all-in-one gaming PC without any of the shenanigans. And I know that there's people out there sharpening their pitchforks right now because they're like, how dare you, PC Master Race, I just told you that literally we had to troubleshoot a problem for 2 weeks because of an RGB lighting thing. And if you're like, well, you're just too stupid to... Oh, okay, great.
If you're saying that, please leave the podcast feed and the video stream
because
now.
I don't... like
because we don't want you here.
Yeah, I just want to boot it up and play. Like, I don't want a rigmarole of constant updates, constant platform changes, platform wars, da-da-da-da-da. I don't want it to be a thing where I'm having to download drivers and all this stuff. Like, I know that PC people think, and I told you I'm technical, I do that stuff every day on my gaming PC, but I don't want to. And I think we're getting close to the point where we don't have to anymore.
One step closer to the edge.
One step closer to the edge. End rant. Wasn't as bad. It could have been 2 hours.
That's why we have this show!
That's why we have this show. Listen, we've been going for a really long time. Any final thoughts for State of Play? State of Play
where between, like, we got to pick. We got to make our pick on who we think did well. Month is a screenshot.
It's going to be bad.
Take our picks for who we think did well.
This is going to be bad. I'm obviously going to, I think, genuinely, not saying that, partly saying this is the Xbox guy, I think Microsoft did much better in January.
Nice.
Because
I'm sorry.
They actually talked about things. And like you said, and this is probably because they have to, right? But they got out there, they showed the box. I think that in and of itself makes it immediately like, they showed the box, people are talking about it, they're excited about it. It's definitely not like traditional by any means, but it is. They're out there talking about it.
Nothing about what's going down in 2020 is traditional. PlayStation leaked, detailed their specs in a Wired article.
Yeah. And I think that finding out about, and at the end of the day, everyone's favorite fallback is, well, where are the games? Well, they announced Hellblade 2, Senua's...
No, it's the other way around. Senua's Saga.
Saga.
Hellblade 2, or Senua's Saga Hellblade 2.
Okay, that's it.
Official name
they announced that and Project Morrow, which I think are two really interesting games from Ninja Theory that will be coming to the Xbox.
Please don't sleep on Ninja Theory. Like,
don't sleep on
if you have not played DMC Devil May Cry, if I had to make a list, that would probably be my top, or like within the top 2 of my favorite Devil May Cry games.
And it's a divisive game. Like, if you're coming from the Devil May Cry like lineage, it's tough. Like, you're like, but if you've never played Devil May Cry,
I loved the approach they took with it. But please don't sleep on Ninja Theory, and don't sleep on any of these developers. Like, yes, a lot of these are smaller developers, but with the power of the Microsoft checking account, anything is possible.
Until I see what, like, I think that Sony's messaging behind E3 gives them the thumbs down. Like, being like, we're not going, seems very contrite and egotistical, and maybe they're going to hit us with a surprise thing, but yeah, they should talk about that. Like, you can't just come out and say, we're not going to E3. Like, that's choosing not to participate in the gaming culture of E3, and I feel like that's a little conceited. That's why I think Microsoft gets January. But I know you've prepared a rebuttal.
My pick for who wins January, I agree.
Okay.
I think it's I think like
you heard it here. Sony is dead. Long live Microsoft. Great podcast.
Well, we're not done yet. We got to finish the episode. I think Microsoft takes the January crown, or at least the January month, really for a few things. I think Sony not going to E3. My personal opinion, I think there's a mixed bag on that. As I talked about, there's good and bad, and I would kind of put that. I would put that along the same parity as the whole Xbox Series X and not having exclusives for a year or two, because I think there's good or bad that you can kind of flow from both of those. It just, I think with those 2 points, what it depends on is execution.
Yeah.
And how it's executed and presented to the end user. If Sony does some crappy state of play at E3 or nothing at all and misses out on that hype cycle and does small unnamed events throughout the year that really don't get a lot of hype, that's going to hurt them.
Yeah.
If for some people take the impression that, oh, they don't have exclusives, I'm not going to buy that, I'm going to buy the PS5 instead because it has Horizon Zero Dawn 2 at launch, that hurts Xbox. So it's flip of the coin. It doesn't matter.
The thing that I really want to see, a lot of people when this Xbox news came out of like, oh, they're not going to do next-gen exclusives, is that going to hold things back? And I think Destiny is the infamous example of a game that was highly criticized and ultimately flawed because of its reliance on releasing an older gen version. The thing that I need to see from Sony is if they come out and they say Horizon Zero Dawn 2 is exclusive to the PlayStation 5, they better explain why, other than just the fact of we want you to buy the new box, right? Like that's because at the end of the day, like what Microsoft is doing by definition is more pro-consumer.
Something along the lines of like, look at the detail and the depth of this world, and look how many animals and robots and stuff we can see on this. This is only going to be possible on the PlayStation 5.
I'm going to be pretty salty if they do announce a Demon Souls remake, because I love Dark Souls, and I got into Dark Souls through Dark Souls. But I want to play Demon Souls, but if they say that's an exclusive, no, that's a PS3 game that got up-resed considerably, probably.
You're still going to buy it, baby.
That's the problem. I don't like that. I don't like that. And I don't like the idea that... And at the end of the day, what will end up happening is the same thing that happened this generation. I own both consoles. Xbox shelf, well, I probably won't have a shelf next gen, but Xbox shelf, very large, very robust. PlayStation shelf, the things we talked about. Like,
and it's the same for me.
Yeah.
The PlayStation shelf, woo! The
Yeah.
Xbox shelf,
just what you need. And that's... And, at the end of the day, like, yes, I bought the PlayStation, so, like, oh, Sony won.
But, again, like, piggybacking off that, I think we're very privileged that we have this hobby and we're very deep in the culture of this. Some people forget, for as much as we talk to and who we're aiming for as well, the big thing that's going to mark the success of these consoles is the average, everyday, plain Jane consumer. And they're just going to read whatever the news and the general surface news is going to say.
Yeah.
As far as sales go. And we help promote that, but they are the majority. That majority is the big driving factor for.
I think this idea of people have talked for years, and I would love to have this would be a Rocket Punch show discussion. But people talked about the average consumer, and we've created this weird silent majority pseudo persona that we've assigned as the actual decision makers. And I just don't think that's true. I think that a majority of people who play only on console know exactly what they're buying and why they're buying it. One of my very good friends loves Xbox. He loves Xbox because his friends play on Xbox. He loves Xbox because of Xbox Game Pass, and he loves Xbox because it looks like the games look best.
I'm saying the average consumer buying the product, the majority, that's going to be, as far as sales numbers, that's going to drive the bottom line, but we don't affect that bottom line as much directly with money. We affect that bottom line with like, oh my God, Seth, you have to get the latest PlayStation 5. It's got this, this, and this. And you're like, oh, that sounds great. Or Cameron, you got to get the new Xbox. It's got the new Halo game. It's so awesome. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. Like, and us having those conversations with those general people. Like when people ask me about game stuff, I'm very frank with them. Like I don't blindly, regardless of what you may have interpreted on this show, I don't blindly go like, get the PlayStation. It's, okay, like I know that you're trying to save on money. Here's what I suggest you do. You've got a pretty good internet connection at home. Get the Xbox all digital edition. Get your Game Pass. I told my my brother-in-law who just built a PC, I was like, oh, Xbox Game Pass for PC. So go ahead and sign up right now. Like like what, $10 a month?
$10 for PC once it launches.
Yeah, $10 for PC. I think he got it at the $5 price.
Yeah, it's $5 because it's in beta. Yeah,
like, and you get all these lists of games that you can download for free. He was like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, go get it." And he's on. Boom. Like it will. Piggybacking off this and kind of wrapping up State of Play here. Yeah. My other point with why I think Xbox wins. Again, I talked about those 2 points that I think are kind of neck and neck. Horizon Zero Dawn is awesome that it's coming to PC. I give them the thumbs up. I think the big thing, and kind of what you talked about as well, that kind of trumps that is they showed off the Series X. That teaser trailer was, we were sitting there like, what is this? What is this? Oh my God, like in the emotion and the feeling for it, and really, before 2020 even hit, you already knew what the box looked like. I think that was a power move, a great move. I think they needed to do something bold and strong, and I think they succeeded. Horizon Zero Dawn for PC is great news. It's a Sony exclusive that's going to come to more people, have put their hands on it. It could be a strategy later on for them. That's great. But I think showing the Xbox Series X off early and first
at the Game Awards. 46 million people were watching.
I think that was much more of a bolder power move, and that's why I give the nod to Sony or Xbox this month.
January in the books.
Okay. Good job.
We'll have to tally them up.
We'll see you next month.
I was, honestly, and I know Xbox not going to win every month. Most months, but
we'll see.
I was very concerned that if we do it this way, like what happens if the same one wins all 12 months and it's a clear cut, like just a complete decimation. So I'm glad that, if Xbox does get decimated in the next gen.
At the end of the day, we're having fun with console wars, but I'm like, we're still looking at these facts and like, okay, like it's clearly like, again, the big thing, PlayStation, a lot of that stuff was rumored or conjecture, and now, I can't.
If the rumor of February 5th is true, then next month tune in and watch them. Watch me say the words. Yeah, Sony had a kick-ass month.
And I will clip it and put it on every social media platform. Period.
I mean, you could technically clip that.
That's true. You're right.
But then you would be part of the larger news media press.
Yeah, that's not fair.
Twisting my words.
Yeah, that's not fair. I'll do it right. Do it right.
We need to power our dreams.
We do.
We do need to power our dreams.
So now we're done with the State of Play section. That's the big meaty one.
Yep.
We're sitting here now talking. Our next section is Power Our Dreams.
I see what you did. You made the PlayStation one the meaty segment and put this on as the tack on at the
end. The flow was better on State of Play.
I call bullshit. And you know where my red flag went up? Is when the Patreon tiers are named after trophy tiers. Platinum.
Oh, son of...
Yeah. That's what we call a Freudian slip, everyone. He made that decision. He didn't even think about it.
We did have a diamond tier.
Diamond achievement. All right, I'm vindicated.
But no, Power Your Dreams, guys, is kind of where we both kind of... We kind of talk about some of the things we hope and or want to see from the Microsoft and one from the Sony camp.
This is where we hook the hype hose up to the side of the building and we just unleash the hype and watch it just burst out of all of the upper windows.
Yes.
This is the hype segment where we talk about what we want from each thing, each person.
So what... You want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
I'll go first. I'll go first. So I have already talked about my PC console hybrid ambitions. That is not what I'm going to list. My Xbox One is very straightforward and to the point. Put Star Wars Battlefront 2 on Game Pass, you cowards! It is a great game. It is fantastic. They fixed all the issues, and that game it's already got a ton of players. It has had a soft resurgence, and that game is perfectly primed for Game Pass. You're already in bed with EA, so just lean over and just whisper in their ear sensually, "We should put Battlefront 2 on Game Pass." And let the player base just quadruple. That is my Xbox thing. So do you want me to go straight into the Sony one? Or
I'll do my Xbox One.
Okay, do your Xbox.
My Xbox One, for Power Your Dreams is we've talked about this off mic. We've talked about it on mic before, and it's one of the, like I remember you asked me the straightforward question, what do you want to see from them? And I told you, I thought about it for a second. I'm like, this is what I want. I want to see, I put on here new IPs. I want to see a new IP from Microsoft. I want to see it when Xbox Series X comes out. It doesn't have to be a launch title. It doesn't have to be in launch window. But I want to see something from them that is ambitious, new, bold, and that is not either Halo or Gears or Gran Turismo or the Forza.
Yeah,
that's what I don't want. Like one of the problems and the hurdles. I don't say problem, but the things that I enjoy about Sony and Microsoft is they put you in Sony is that they put you in these different roles with their games.
In these third-person, story-driven, single-player narrative experiences.
But I can, one game I can swing around as Spider-Man, one game I can hunt zombies as Dean St. John on a motorcycle riding around in the mud.
The zombies can T-pose and clip through the world? Yes, okay, cool, I'll follow you.
One game I can hunt robot dinosaurs, another one I can kill gods. These games, one factor of games why people love them are power fantasies. Like, you can be these characters, and like, as much as I love, everybody should know, I'm a huge Halo fan. When that new Halo comes out, I am on it 100%.
See you at E3, buddy. See you at E3. Halo Destiny. Cross your fingers.
But I think it's gotten to the point where those games I'm excited for them, but I play them and they just feel the same. And I feel like that's when when Xbox has these big, like, big tempo things, it always feels like it's Gears or Halo or Forza. And I want to see something new from them, especially with the acquisition. And I know I will. But I'm throwing some softballs right off the bat here. But I think that, like, I want to see a new IP from them that gets people off the bench saying, oh my God, like, all that conjecture in the BS way back when about when people were talking about, like, oh, Xbox is the shooter box. That's what you want to get if you want all the shooters. Like, you remember that. Yeah.
It's still around to a large extent.
Okay.
It's I mean, you can jump into a message board and, I can't tell you a lot of great non-shooter games that are not, multi-platforms at this point.
And that's what, like, I want to see them lean on that. Ori and the Blind Forest. It's a smaller game, but I think that's a great one for Microsoft. But I want to see these big I want them to start adding. They have the studios now. Yep. I want to see them start adding the tent poles.
And remember, the studio acquisitions have been within the last 2 years.
And that's what I'm saying. Like,
minimum is 3 years.
I will tell you, if you were expecting Series X to come out with some launch title that's some blowout, like it's coming right now in spring 2021, you're full of yourself. Give these studios the time. I don't care how long, I don't want to wait forever, but I don't care how long it takes. I want them to do it right. I want them to say, we have these great new exclusives because they're Xbox Game Studio coming out. Sony, what's up? And make Sony work for it. When you make them work for it, we get a lot of great stuff.
I've seen this ridiculous, completely asinine rumor going around, but I'm going to mention it here because of the hype. I do it for the hype. I am the hype lord. Quadruple A Initiative Studio.
Yep.
Producing a reimagining of Knights of the Old Republic. Is the dumbest rumor I've ever heard. Because EA would rather die than give up the Star Wars franchise license. And I don't think that Disney wants anything to do with not selling as many copies as possible. Agreed. But I think that's the level of people are wanting something legendary from them. I hope that whatever Playground's working on in the Fable Zone, that's a yes, please. That would be a great first 3 months of the Xbox Series X launch. But this is your time.
No, that's what I got. Like, I want to see something new and bold from them sometime this year. It doesn't have to be released this year. Just some tease, something that gets me like, ooh. What's that meme with the dude on the tree? Yeah.
That's it. So now I'm going to talk about my Sony wish. And we've alluded to it a little bit. It is time to get hungry with PlayStation Now. You have got to go and you have got to preach PlayStation Now. You've got to ride the hype. Now, I know you may not want to be as bold as, like, we're putting all of our first parties there day and date. Like, I know that. But you got to get out there and you got to get these games on there. honestly, if it has ever been a PlayStation Plus game of the month, call. Hey, remember when you were a PS Plus game of the month? What if you wanted to be part of the subscription service where you get, sure, yeah, like Rocket League would be ecstatic.
And even if it's something where like a new game comes out and then maybe a certain amount of time after that,
yeah,
a couple of months. If you have PS Now, guess what? Yeah, because you jump in that because we all know that as the game stays out longer, price depreciates in value. Yeah. The only exceptions to that are any Nintendo game and Grand Theft Auto 5. So,
which just came to Game Pass. Like GTA 5 just came to Game Pass. Like,
how long did that take?
Took a long time, but like. I saw screenshots of people getting back into GTA Online, which guess what? You don't just walk into GTA Online and not buy things. Like, it is a good business move to have your games on these consoles. Phil has already talked about when people play on Game Pass, they buy more games, and they end up buying the game that they played on Game Pass because you get the discount and it incentivizes you to own it. So I would say Sony, you've already bragged about it being the biggest game console subscription service, and that's just because you sold so many fucking consoles, and I'm sure you had a pop-up banner at some point that said, try free for 30 days, and you clicked it, and the grandmas don't know how to unsubscribe. So that's fine. But if it is truly the biggest engaged user base, slap it on a banner, wave it real big, and then add stuff to it that's not like Bloodborne, like games that are like, you know, $3, you know.
Yeah. Put
things on there that, you know, like Plague's Tale. Loving that right now. That's the, like, yeah, I put the games that...
Strong indie or third-party titles that maybe have flown under the radar.
Yeah.
That, like Will has talked about on the podcast before, Void Bastards, a perfect example of a game. Yep. He would not have tried it if it were not on Game Pass.
Yep.
Would not have tried it.
I would love to see... I right now, I'm feeling the draw to buy Kakarot. I want to play it. I want to try it. But $60, I've heard...
I have it on Xbox.
Oh.
On the disc, so...
Oh, cool.
If anything, I could...
Everyone's not fortunate enough, but I would love, like, in six to 9 months, like, to see that pop up on there. Yeah, that would be awesome to be able to play a Dragon Ball game.
And I can show you how you trade games now. On
That's it. That's...
Zing! Okay.
Zing. Save that for next month.
Yes, okay, you're right. You're
right. That's what I say. Go big with PlayStation Now, and get hungry, compete, get ready to get out there. Like, the console wars, we joke and we laugh, but it is, at the end of the day, it is a competition that you are fortunately winning by a very long margin. But if you continue to let Microsoft eat these, you know, take over these key fields and key areas of improvement, you're going to look back midway through next generation, and you're going to see yourself really tied up in some old mentalities that maybe don't work. And again, you don't want to be reactive. You want to be proactive and solve these problems before they happen, versus what Microsoft's had to do, be very reactive. Now they're pushing forward. They're like, all right, we want to lock in cloud gaming. We want to lock in subscription services before they even blow up. And they're doing it. And if you're not careful, you're going to end up with a box that people buy your first-party games on only, but then they turn off and head over to their Xbox to play with their friends, because I can play World War Z co-op with my friends, and I know that everyone has that game, and I'm not having to convince my friends to buy $60 games. We're all subscribed. We're all in. So, what's yours?
My Sony one, I've talked about it before. First episode 1, I want to get this out the way. Sony, got to work on your network infrastructure, buddy. Like, you gotta. I was there. I remember when the great PS3 outage.
Oh, the network I got you, man.
I got some free games out of it. So, but I remember that whole like month and a half of that entire network being down, and not. It's been better now. We haven't had an incident like that, but like it has been proven time again that Microsoft has the superior network infrastructure. Their online play and connecting with people is much more robust than Sony's. I'm not gonna say archaic, but traditional sense of.
You can change your ID now, though. That's a big one.
Yeah,
that was cool. PSN.
Yeah. Finally.
I mean,
which after I heard how like the like all the work that went into and why it took so long to change it, I'm like, ooh, yeah, that is a lot of work. But then in the back of my mind, I thought, why weren't your engineers being future proofing and being a little bit forward thinking on that? It's done now. You can do it.
Yeah.
But specifically, pulled up here. I don't know if you remember this.
I do, yeah.
Back in May of 2019, there was a kind of some shakeups that Sony and Microsoft are exploring strategic partnerships. One of them specifically being joint development of future cloud solutions in Microsoft Azure to support their respective game and content streaming services. So, guess what that means? Maybe that hope of PlayStation Now being a big boy could happen with better infrastructure.
Scrape 6% of that off the top.
Exactly. Like, look. I'll be very blunt. Like, Sony's network infrastructure is not the best. If partnering with Microsoft and giving them a small percentage of the cut of that means that we get a more robust PlayStation Now, better streaming, making that a quote-unquote competitor to Xbox Game Pass, and getting better, more stable internet infrastructure for PlayStation Plus and online play with your friends, take the money, because PlayStation will make more than enough back on return getting people onto their platform. So I want to see, that's been a big wish and a big kind of Achilles heel that I know Sony has had.
Also, those games that Sony produces are really well suited to cloud on-the-go gaming. Like, God of War would be a great game to play on an xCloud-like service. Like, controller with a phone snapped into it, chilling out in, Subway. Just like those games are not, like, they are somewhat timing-based, but with enough forgiveness, and I think tech is to the point now where we could,
if you've got a strong connection,
you're
okay.
You could do it.
As long as you're not on Stadia. But, too soon? Too soon? I'm sorry.
Actually, let's refocus this podcast to be specifically about how Stadia is doing.
That would be great, because the logo I would put would be someone pulling down their pants, and then the dump would be the Stadia logo upside down. Man. So that is my pick for powering your dreams. Savage. It's console wars, baby. If you're not Xbox or Microsoft,
that's console slaughter, dude. That's cloud-based console slaughter. Savage.
That's it.
This is console wars. I don't even want to look at the time that this thing was.
The point is not to look at the time.
But here's the thing. You showed up, you stayed, and there are more of these to come. Every month, we will be launching a new episode of Console Wars to recap the previous. It's going to be at the front end of the month. I'm not sure what the exact schedule, but within that first week, I would expect to see it.
If you, again, like we said, if you are a Patreon subscriber, you will get early access to this episode before anybody else, and it will be a good chunk before anybody else. So if you want to continue to stay on top of the conversation and join us as we're getting this stuff fresh, then you want to head over to patreon.com/rocketpunch and support us at our gold tier or higher. To get
and if you're ever confused, you're like, oh man, what are the URLs, socials, patronuses, what do I need to do?
Expecto Patronum.
You just go to rocketpunchgo.com. That is a brand new shiny site designed by yours truly.
You did a good job.
That has everything you need right on the homepage. The latest videos that you need access to, the latest episode of the Rocket Punch Show. You can scroll down, get links straight to our Twitch feed, straight to our Patreon, straight to the Discord server. Everything right on the homepage. I put a lot of research and work into making that thing usable for everyone based on what your feedback has shown. As far as me personally, I'm going to do a little bit of hashtag self-promotion.
Before you even get on the self-promotion, I want to let people know that Seth is our in-house designer. He helps a lot with our stuff in here, but he's still...
Well, no, hold on. We're on an entrepreneurial... I am the creative director.
I'm pretty sure we can change some titles.
In fact...
New Rocket Punch is coming.
Grand creative director. Grand Moth creative director.
Okay.
No, that's Grand creative director. Okay. Well, I am the Grand creative director.
There you go.
We've had that name picked out before this moment.
Yeah, we did. But he helped us out a lot with a lot of design aspects and graphics and stuff at Rocket Punch. But you can still go and support him. So if you like all of our graphics and you want to get those same graphics as well for your own projects or anything, Seth, where would they need to go?
You can head over to hellosethturner.com. There is a link right on there to schedule a chat with me, so you can book time right on my calendar for when you want to chat. If you are a YouTube channel, if you are a business, if you are somebody who is looking for help, not just in like, I need a logo, but like you really want to understand how your users or how your customers are interacting with you. My background isn't just in making pretty logos and design assets, but also understanding like user journeys and how customers interact with you, finding those pain points, and basically helping you find the best creative strategy, not just creative assets that are going to help you succeed. Because at the end of the day, a logo is not going to sell more products or engage more users, but a good strategy and maybe some professional help looking at that will. So, hello, SethTurner.com. You can also follow me on Twitter at Darth Turner. I tweet out a lot of my designs there. I also have links to my website and things right there as well. So if you want to get involved and listen to, let's see, rants about Xbox user experience.
They're pretty good, though.
They are pretty good. If you want to talk about JoJo's and or Star Wars references / memes.
Show you one today.
Hot takes. I have a lot of hot takes. And also some like impressions of Game Pass games that I'm playing. Also, if you want to peek into some other exciting projects that I'm working on, I would love to chat with you, or just DM me, chat about games or whatever. So at Darth Turner on Twitter or HelloSethTurner.com. It's got some of my previous projects as well as a link to reach out and chat with me if you need some help. So.
And don't worry, all that information we'll have in the show notes as well. So if you're watching via YouTube or listening on the podcast service, you can go right into the notes and check out that information. Go directly and talk to Seth there.
That's a good user experience because they don't have to worry about writing it down while they're probably driving and listening to this.
Bingo! But guys, that's it for episode 1 of Console Wars. Thank you guys so much for joining in. Remember, reach out to us at Rocket Punch Go on Twitter, or you can hit us up on Facebook at Rocket Punch Network. Let us know what you think about the show. Any feedback, information you guys have from us, definitely communicate it to us. This is our episode 1, and if there are any suggestions for new parts of the show or feedback on how we can make the show better for you guys, let us know.
Or if you just want to agree with Seth.
But why would you want to do that?
Reach out.
Why would
just be like, you know what? You're right. Sony, not looking out for the customer.
I need all of the Sony fans to rise up.
Rise up.
Rise up. Get my Bible out here.
Well, here's what's going to happen.
Okay.
One day you'll realize that Xbox is the superior platform.
Okay.
You will
unlikely, but okay.
Chop off the hands of Sony executive someone.
Okay.
And I will be like, rise, Lord Cameron. And then you'll go back to the Sony headquarters and send out the distress signal to bring all the other fans in. It'll be great.
I feel like you've thought about this for
10 seconds before I said it. And
I was going to say a time no longer than a couple of months.
Extremely foolish for me to compare myself to the dark side because most people don't like the dark side. But also, watch that scene from Rogue One and tell me who you think is badass. And you know what scene I'm talking about.
Okay, all right.
This has been Console Wars. It's apparently a hybrid Star Wars / PS4.
Apparently so.
PS4, Xbox versus.
It's our show, so we can do what we want.
We can do it whatever. We can do whatever the H we want.
That's right.
Because I'm not going to say frick on our Christian Minecraft server. Anyways,
thank you guys so much.
It's been a pleasure to join you this glorious evening to talk about
I think
video games.
So now we're going to go back to the idea. I think that this is a war. This is a never-ending struggle.
Mm-hmm.
But in the spirit of good fun and sportsmanship, I think we do need to go back to the handshake. So thank you guys for joining us on Console Wars. See you next time.